skill that he wants to use in sword crafting.
Hail Dicelings, and welcome to episode 0 of Keys to the Kingdom, our balls early Saturday morning campaign. This happened to be what worked out well, and I don't have competitors right now, so that's pretty cool. So anybody who wants to watch, nothing conflicts. Good news there. We talked about playing different games and things like that, and Burning Wheel has been my bucket list campaign one. I really want to do it because the game is designed for campaign play. It's also designed to do a couple of different things, which I've kind of talked about in the chat with these guys, but I'm going to mention it for you as viewers in case you're not familiar with the system. First off, Burning Wheel, which I think I left my copy of the book in the car, is about the size of a Bible when it's printed. I want to say it's like 500 pages or something ridiculous like that. Or no, it's way more than that. It's like 700. But Burning Wheel
602.
Gold, what's that?
602.
602.
That's bonkers.
Burning Wheel Gold is actually 3 books in one. If you get the codex is also 3 books in one, which explains their page count. So while it is a little daunting, there are certain things in there, like to start the game, the only pages you really need are about up to 100, all the character creation stuff. Because as you go through character creation, it does explain the rules, which we're going to explain here as we go along. But this episode is mostly focused on character creation, which the system calls character burning. And then we'll go more into it. So basically, Burning Wheel does 3 types of campaigns really well. These are the words of the creator. So I'm going to trust him coming into this new game system, and that's kind of where we went. It does quests, struggles, and intrigue really well. This group happens to be interested in all 3 of those things and kingdom building. So we kind of talked about what we wanted to do. We don't want to settle on any particular aspect. We want to kind of engage all 3 of those while we build up a kingdom. So we named this campaign Keys to the Kingdom, and I've been playing with the idea of doing Mecha in a campaign for a long time now. So this one is a medieval fantasy with Mecha included, kind of influenced by stuff like Escaflowne, but as a role-playing game with these familiar faces going on. So you guys kind of remember all the cast from L5R. If you haven't, check out L5R. We're just going to jump into character burning because it's a little complicated. And as things go along, you'll probably catch our names and what we intend to play, things like that. I'm sorry, I'm dying here. There's like a little hair on my eye, and I keep picking at it, and I know it's probably annoying for somebody watching. All right, there we go. So I'm going to switch my camera so that you guys who are watching can actually see our Roll20 screen. This is our play mat here, essentially. In this game, kind of like in games like Fate, you receive tokens throughout play that can be used to modify rolls. So that's what you can see over here. I've got a Fate token, a persona, and there's a 3rd token called a Deeds point. All 3 of them work a little bit differently. We'll get into that when we start playing. But this allows me to do things like pull up character sheets and show you guys like where people are at. So for everybody to start with, like here's an example of an NPC that I have fully burnt, Sergeant Alistair, who will be a character inside the game. The only thing I didn't fill in is his beliefs, instincts, and traits. Well, I filled in his traits, it looks like. These are really important for characters. It lets you kind of know how you should play a character. It also is how you get rewarded for playing your character. These are things that the players are going to generate. So if they have a belief that says all heretics are bad, whenever I see one, I will show them the light of God. And that would be, actually, that's more of an instinct. So every time they play to that and it's disadvantageous to them, they actually get points. Those points can be used to improve their skills and things like that. This is a skill-based system. Here's a picture of what the stats page looks like. You have stats, attributes, and then your skills, which all the skills are listed down here. This character happens to be kind of a duelist type character. And then what we're going to use today is the last page, which is called the character burner. This is where we can put in our life paths, which is kind of like class selection in a traditional game, but it's a little bit more fluid than like how D&D does it. So I start with my base concept, which is going to be a pilgrim knight aspirant. This character, I didn't want him to be a knight, but I wanted him to be aspiring to be one, which means when these guys make their characters, if they want to manipulate Sergeant Alistair, all they have to do is play to his I want to be a knight, because that's probably going to be one of his beliefs, and they can kind of manipulate him and use him the way they want. So the way this game works is we use life paths. Life paths take us to a certain point in our age, and then we can choose a new life path. If it happens to be in the same group of life paths, you don't have to worry about what's called lead. Lead is essentially an extra year that allows you to transition life paths. Each life path shows you which ones you can go to. So it's kind of a little bit of a game. There's two ways to make a character. You can either start at your born path and just kind of build and find what looks interesting, or you can start at the end. For this character, I started at the end and I said, I definitely want him to be a part of a militant order, but I don't want him to be a knight. So I tried to figure out a way for me to be able to do that. And as you can tell, I went a little weird. He was born noble, became a soldier, then a duelist within the city, which is kind of like your street duelists. A couple of like street thugs out in the street, dueling with swords, that sort of thing. And then he discovered God, went on a pilgrimage, and then he joined the militant order. If this character was to continue with life paths, I would actually probably send him to Page Next, and then over to Knight. We'll get into that with each character. What I want to do is go down the line and just say who you are and what your concept is. That way we kind of have an idea of what everybody's looking to play inside this campaign. And if we want to answer any world building questions before we get to concepts, we can totally do that too. It's kind of up to you guys. Okay. Brendan, you want to go first?
I'm Brendan. And my mind is kind of awash with all this stuff in the system, so I'm
there's
going to be playing it,
tons of
playing
options
as it goes along. Like I could go in 100 different directions right now.
Yeah. So how about we talk about what we want to play first? Do some world building, and then we'll go into concepts.
Like a campaign theme, kind of.
Yeah, let's talk about like what we want to explore. Like, do we want to be a bunch of like peasants that uprise, take over, and start like a communist compound or something like that? Like, what do we envision the campaign to be?
Socialist paradise.
I really think Nate should still be that rice farmer who is like a lost, royal line.
Is it actually like if I go lay down in the bed?
No, for this is fine.
Thank you.
Murdoch no likey 9 o'clock.
I don't think any of us really
should come back though, because this is kind of more of a discussion stuff.
Excuse me, when should I come back?
When we start actually building characters.
Oh yeah, well I got to be at my computer because I got to type in the character sheet and stuff.
Murdoch, always the practical one.
So, overarchingly, my original thought was that we build a kingdom. I didn't really establish how we should build a kingdom, where we want to start, that sort of thing, because I wanted to get your opinion. There's a ton of ways that we can go about this. Thinking back to some of the games that we've played in the past that we've discussed, doing campaign like kingdom building, and it just didn't really work in that game because we also had like a quest going on. We've had it before where we were like mostly roguish type characters. That would actually work in this. You could play as like a thieves guild, and maybe you don't want to rule the entire city like as king and queen type of situation, but you want to rule the underground. We could definitely do something like that.
I could bring back the fat rogue.
The fat rogue works actually regardless of what you guys do. You could take over like by manipulating the court, and you could actually choose to become like a real king. You could. The city I'm going to start you in is Gateway. Basically, there's 2 orders of knights there, but there's no real leadership. There's a mayor who controls the city, but the city is ripe for you to take over if you want an established city. The alternative is, if you guys want to play kind of towards the struggle side of things, you guys could be trying to set up a new city that's on the Pilgrim Road, and literally start from like a small village and begin building up a village. It's kind of how you guys want to start. Do you want to take over a castle, or do you want to build something from the ground
I
up?
actually
Is
kind of like
the
that.
first
Maybe we could
question.
be like a small religious order, and we're starting a new town surrounding our abbey or castle or whatever.
Honestly, I was thinking like because when Chris first brought it up back in the chats, and I was thinking about it. I think I mentioned it one time, but kind of I do like the idea of just starting from the village aspect.
Mhm.
I was thinking that is because when you said what's it called that crafters and such can be viable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking that we could all play different crafters and all that, and who are trying to start their own city.
You
Because
definitely
they don't
could,
like the rule the way the mayor rules it. So
Yeah, and I like that. Like maybe Gateway has like really heavy taxes, and you guys are like, well, fuck this. I'm gonna go make my own city with blackjack and hookers and
Exactly.
crafting.
and there's no saying we can't do the add in the religious part if you want to play that up, Brendan. I would be totally down for that.
Absolutely.
Real
like-
quick, just out of curiosity, how did you say the god's name?
Tamati.
Tamati.
Brad.
Oh, are we gonna go with that?
Yes.
Hey, well, hey, you're the one who didn't want it to be Tom. Okay, I just said Tom.
Okay, so we are going with the Maori pronunciation, and hopefully we're doing it right.
No,
But we're gonna call it Tomati.
I just have to make sure one thing, Chris. Tom, are you actually okay with this?
Yeah, it's fine.
Because
So
I mean,
that actually
otherwise,
brings up-
yeah.
So that actually brings up a really important part that we decided on. We play a lot of like medieval fantasy games, and it's always like a multi-god pantheon.
Polytheistic.
Yeah, polytheistic. So we decided that we were going to go monotheistic this time. So we're going to have a singular god that actually has a very big church. We're thinking kind of like 1300s Roman Empire, where the church is really influential on the political level, but not necessarily ruling by filling a seat. So like if the Pope came to town, you guys would acquiesce to the Pope because he's the Pope.
He's a defeating pope.
But at the same
defeating
time,
Pope.
if you were the king, you don't necessarily have to listen to the Pope, but it might get you excommunicated along with your entire country.
Don't do that. He's the freaking Pope.
Miracles are real. I really like the way faith works in this game. You actually have to have faith. If you play a character that has the faith quality and can perform miracles, and you start acting like a douche and you don't follow faith, you actually lose it. And God punishes you the whole time as you lose it.
Don't do that, Tom.
The way magic works is magic in the original book is by a spell list. It's kind of similar to Vancian magic. It's a little different. Spells are predetermined. You have to roll against a number to see if you cast, and then you cast it. I've opted to use what's called art magic. It comes from the Codex. Essentially what that is the players are given free reign if they choose to play a magic user to build the spell however they want. It becomes a discussion before they cast. Once we work out how the spell works, you roll against your target number, and if you create it, awesome. And if you create it, or if you cast that same thing 10 times in a row, it becomes a permanent spell for you, and you get basically a bonus die to cast it every time because you're actually proficient with that one spell. The thing that I really like about that system is not only do you create personal spells, you actually name them. You're supposed to come up with like the role play aspect of it, like what it looks like, what it sounds like, that sort of thing. But it gives a lot of freedom to the players to be able to be like, I don't care about all these other spells. I want to be an ice mage. And they can literally make all their spells look like ice because they decided to be an ice mage, which I really like. Some games don't really encourage that sort of thing. So like if you wanted to make a spell of healing that looked like an ice, like covering a wound and the wound slowly heals underneath, totally a fine concept. There's a bunch of other stuff from the Codex, which we want to talk about. Do we want to include? Do we not want to include? That sort of thing. But that'll be a little bit later in our discussions. So really looking at the questions that Luke suggests that we kind of fill in the blanks. The first one is like, what is our big picture? This is kind of what we're talking about right now. So we've got kind of somebody interested in going from maybe the ground up, possibly including a militant order, but I like the idea of it centering around like maybe just an abbey that's on the road that you
That-
guys are building a village around.
That's definitely what
Um,
I'm more interested in.
I really, really like the idea that Gateway has high taxes, and that's why you guys left Gateway. Because that gives you an immediate political rival as you start to go up. Gateway is going to become a problem for your trade routes and things like that. Like that's already built in, and I really like that idea.
If you do taxes, it's going to be easier to. So just from a historical / poli sci, you want to
Absolutely.
make them tariffs, not taxes.
Yes, I was thinking we'd call them tariffs in game.
Well, no, there's actually a difference. Taxes are domestic.
Okay.
Tariffs are against shipped products that come in. So as crafters, if you think about it, like if you
Okay.
make
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Gateway is more like Europe or more like the United Kingdom. It brings raw materials in and then sends out finished products.
Mhm.
If you make Gateway kind of like that, it sends out finished products. But the high tariffs make it difficult for the merchants to the lower crafters, the people that would live in like the shittier parts of town, makes it difficult for them to buy because the tariffs are high.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so yeah, and
It gives
I kind of wanted
the
to talk about
nobility a
it.
reason to stay, basically.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about like geography for a second here. I want Gateway to be like a bottleneck. Like you have to pass Gateway to get out of the region you're in. Like the Holy Land is, I was originally kind of thinking about when we played Pathfinder, Gateway was like a separate floating island out in the middle, and you guys had to cross a gigantic bridge to get across it. I kind of want to keep that Gateway, like that whole map. It's an island. It's on basically it's a mesa that you guys are on. There's earth underneath you, but it's so far down that it's just ridiculous. Like it's not worth the climb. There's nothing down there for you to really get to. It's basically vast jungle and dinosaurs down there as far as you're concerned.
Fuck that.
I mean,
now I want to go down there.
that gives us a reason to explore.
You had to say dinosaurs.
But
I don't want to
honestly,
go down there. There's fucking dinosaurs, dude.
I was gonna say, Chris, I like that because it feels like that Gateway got to where it is essentially by bullying, because
Yeah.
it was literally the only option. You
I
literally
feel like it's definitely one of those cases of Gateway was established as a city to protect the pilgrims. It was altruistic, and then slowly through corruption and greed, there's taxes and tariffs being levied, and it's the tariffs have gotten out of control for the merchants. So I really like the idea that we're going to be kind of like mainly kind of influential in like the merchant side of things. That gives you guys a lot of resources points, most likely, depending on how you build your characters, which means you can do stuff like buy a forge, you can buy a apprentice, things like that, like that are actually important to your character doing your job. Let's talk about how we're going to highlight those things in the game. If we're going to play mostly crafters, I am totally fine with us RPing out situations like a vendor comes to town and brings a bunch of raw goods. If we're going to be mostly focused on that and building the kingdom from the ground up, as a GM, I'm going to focus on stuff like there's a lumber vendor that's coming through. He has 18 units of lumber. If you guys want to build that new forge, you guys need at least 12 units. And that's going to be a scenario for a session. Haggling, trying to get those units, or stealing them if you get that crazy, that sort of thing. Because those things are important. So I will work out like a unit system, because I want to keep it basic. That way we don't focus on, okay, you need 127 boards to make this wall. I just want it to be like 1 unit of wood, 1 unit of stone, that sort of thing.
no numbers. Got it.
Yeah, make
So
it pretty easy for us.
Question about Gateway then. So it's sort of separated from everything else. How is it connected to the rest of the kingdom, and where is it leading to?
So my idea is that there's a mesa that is the Holy Land. There is actual cities on there, but for the most part, it's it's an idealistic land. It's really safe there, really healthy, really clean, because it's mostly pilgrims that come in and leave. However, to the south, there is an orc tribe, which keeps mostly to the mountains in the south. That may become a problem later on, and we'll kind of discuss that as it goes. But that is kind of an immediate threat that is inside the area. That's the whole reason that knights patrol the roads, just to keep people safe from any orc raids or anything like that.
have
But
a
usually the
question.
orcs
Oh,
fight with
sorry.
each other, so they don't really mess with the pilgrims all that much, at least at the start of the game. There is a big bridge from Gateway that leads to the main continent. And on the main continent is pretty much more of like warring Europe between like imperialistic conquering kingdoms. But pretty much all the land is claimed already. So it's a lot of like pushing and fighting against borders. So if you want to come from the mainland, you probably come from like a militaristic society. You probably have been in a war or two, especially if you're a militant character, or at least a skirmish or two. And a lot of people go to the Holy Land simply to either start a new life, find God along the way, or because it's a pilgrimage. The land here is protected and acknowledged as the Holy Land by all of the kingdoms of the main continent. And so there's kind of an agreement that they will not enter the Holy Land unless it is in the means of defending God. That has in the past come up as a problem because the church decided that at one point we need to kill all the orcs. And so there was a war in the Holy Land in the past.
We should play orcs.
Orcs are very short-lived in this game. If we make orcs, we'll probably make new characters in
I
about.
love the character creation for orcs so much. I got to it.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal to be an orc. The other thing that's important to note is I am keeping Burning Wheel lore because I really like it. Basically, elves live in a state of grief, and if they become too full of grief, they can become dark elves and have spite, where they kind of start to hate everybody and want to burn things down. But if they stop focusing on the pure level of spite and they just give into hatred, they become orcs. Orcs are elves. Make that very clear for everybody who's watching.
Orcs are elves that hate life.
Yeah.
So
very
they're
tokeny.
it's basically like the Skyrim lore. Everybody's an elf.
Kind of. At least for those three races. There's still like other races, which I kind of wanted to talk about too.
It's more of like a token orcs from what I've seen because orcs are sort of like
it's a little bit more
twisted.
focused on some of the
Helpful.
token elements.
You and Jeremy are in the same house. How come yours is all roboty and weird and his is fine?
Because I'm me.
I don't know.
What the actual fuck?
Look, man.
I can't be the only one going, what the fuck is wrong with your shit?
You may
No,
wanna
maybe
refresh
Scott
your
gave me a
window.
crappy headset. I don't know.
You probably do have a crappy headset.
You may want to refresh your window. That'll probably fix it.
Jeremy, stop hogging all the bandwidth with your porn.
No.
What did you say about me while I was gone?
I said, Jeremy, stop hogging all the bandwidth with this porn.
And I said no.
That's true. He did. He was like, nope, no way.
I
It's
mean,
literally-
we are
it's-
live. You can
it's
go
literally-
back and
it's-
watch.
Yeah, it'll be. I literally said no.
So, Tom and Nate, you've been a little quiet during this whole thing. Do you guys have any ideas? Do you like where it's going? Do you have anything that you want to like add as a caveat? Things like that.
So, I actually did have a, excuse me, I had a question about the religion.
Yeah.
I gotta go get breakfast too, because I'm hungry. So give me a minute. So we live on like a mesa.
Mm-hmm.
Is society like on a like connected in a bunch of interconnected enormous mesas with dinosaur jungle beneath us?
So there's basically a continent-sized mesa. That's the main continent.
Okay.
Gigantic bridge, and then a small nation-sized continent.
Okay.
So there's no
when we-
oceans?
I would say like
We-
medium nation size. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
When we say nation-sized, and this is actually a question.
Yeah.
Europe, are we talking like a European nation, or are we talking like America, Canada, and Russia, which are kind of freaks on the nation-size scale?
So for the big continent, it would be like if North America and Canada were merged. Like that's kind of the
North
level of
America
this.
it includes.
Or sorry,
Canada?
not North America. The U.S. and Canada were merged.
Okay.
No Mexico in that mix. For the smaller,
Because we
I'm
got a
thinking
wall.
probably like Brazil. That's probably a good size.
Okay.
All right. So that being said, this aspects about the religion I'm curious about. Is this one of those? So in real life, Catholicism or Christians build churches to be high up in the sky, to be close to God.
Right.
Is there any aspect of that because we are like above this like death trap of a jungle?
So
I'm just wondering where some ideological stuff from the religion comes from.
So let me talk a little bit about the game real quick here, because there's a really cool feature. There's this thing called wises in the game. Basically, a wise is a skill that you take. It has two purposes. You can fork it into anything that makes sense. So if I have priest wise, anytime I'm doing anything that involves a priest, I can get a bonus die. But if I had something like religion wise, whenever I'm trying to establish a fact about religion, I can roll that check and establish a fact, and that's a fact in the world. So if you guys want to influence things in the game, wises are going to be how you do it. I purposely left a lot of blanks so that you guys can say, you know what, the religion interests me. I want to play a character that maybe isn't a priest, but understands the religion. And when you want to establish something in the game, like, oh, our churches, instead of going up, they're basically sellers. We build them going down instead. You can establish that by making a roll. I'm okay if we establish some of that stuff ahead of time, but I purposely left that stuff blank so that we can kind of talk about it. I'm going with a loosely Catholicism-based kind of idea, like the way that the structure works of the church. Like there's definitely going to be a hierarchy. There is going to be a patriarch that's at the top of it. And the patriarch has a lot of political influence, even though he doesn't have like a kingdom per se. But other than that, I left it really, really blank.
You actually just discussed Orthodox Christian in the Byzantine Empire instead of Catholicism. Like they even call their Pope the Patriarch, and they have a saying. It's called Caesar Opopus, which is Caesar over Pope. It's actually what you just described.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Is something like that. Like as far as like the details of church and ceremony within church, I'm going to leave that a lot up to the play. Once the game gets established, I'm just going to kind of roll things along. And if you guys ever want to be like, no, today's a holiday, boom, you can totally do that.
Today is a holiday.
But what if you're trying to convince people it's a holiday, right? Because you're trying to steal something.
Because you're lying.
So there's this cool thing. Basically, the way the roles work is instead of having a defined purpose by the game, our purpose is defined by what we say it is. So I'm going to say, hey, what's your purpose in this role, and how are you accomplishing it? So if you say, I want to create a holiday, and I'm going to accomplish it with, I don't know, religion-wise, I can be like, okay, so you're trying to create a holiday. Sorry, not with religion-wise. Religion-wise makes it a really weird example. Religious diatribe is what you're going to use, which is basically the skill for you to stand on a podium and tell people about Jesus. I go, okay, that sounds great. You go to the center of town and you start talking about why this should be a holy day. And I give you a couple of tests and you can create a holiday. In fact, the way your character is built, you could build a belief that says St. Giving's Day needs to be a holiday. It's a holiday that your character just made up and you want to force other people to follow it because you believe in it. Now that you have that belief, you go out and you're like, I'm creating this holiday. So you make a couple rolls to make it happen in the game. You're going to grow your character by making rolls and accomplish your belief, which is going to give you points to get you higher ranks in your skills. So it's kind of it's a wheel, essentially. It's a circle, and it feeds into itself.
Okay. So
Is it a burning wheel?
It is.
Roll credit.
Back to character concepts then. I'm totally cool with being the religious guy. Like, if we want to build around an abbey, I'd like to be maybe the head monk of the abbey.
Do you want to be a character that can perform miracles? Because I found out because I was trying to build like the aspirant knight. I wanted him to have miracles, but not be like like a knight necessarily. Like basically, I was building a guy who wanted to be a paladin, and finding faith was really hard since I didn't start looking for faith. So if you want your character to have miracles, when you look at the life paths, look for ones that say faithful under traits.
Right. I was thinking he's from the main continent, and he was a soldier, and sort of the classic archetype of a soldier who's who's turned to God now after war, and is trying to find peace in his life and trying to give peace to others. And he's come to be the most senior monk in the abbey.
Okay, cool. Before we get too far into that, let's talk about what we're going to include and what we're not going to include, just to kind of get that out of the way. Let me open up my copies here. So elves are kind of the background evil race. I kind of don't want to include them. Was anybody dead set on an elf? And I need to be aware of that right now.
Nope.
I want to be an orc.
We know, Murdoch. We know.
Orcs are definitely an evil thing.
Orcs are the evil elves, Mordor. That's what he's trying to say no to.
Like all of the elf types, I don't want them around.
I'm okay with you being an orc if after you turned into an orc, you had an epiphany and now you want to turn back into an elf.
I want to turn into a human.
Sure, that works too.
So here's the problem with the elves. Elves can turn into dark elves and then realize the error of their ways and become regular elves again. But the moment they become an orc, it's no, you're doomed. You will die this terrible lifestyle, and there's no coming back.
Oh, I assumed that was the case.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty bad.
He's gonna fight fate and be like, "No, I want to be an elf again." Rah.
Yeah. The problem is like his character would get killed by other orcs real fast.
You know, it'd be really funny as a religious character who thinks that since dark elves can realize the error of the ways and turn into elves, maybe elves can realize the error of their ways and become faithful humans.
That sounds awesome.
You could totally believe that, and
hey man, miracles
at the start of the
right?
game. Like, let me put it this way: you can totally believe that at the start of the game and pursue that belief and gain points 100%. What's going to end up happening is your beliefs are going to be tested. That's my purpose as the GM. So as you go along, eventually I'm going to be like, no, you can't save the elves. Now what? And then you come back the next week and you have a new belief that's like, start the fucking Inquisition, kill all the elves. That could totally be a thing.
So are the elves present in the Holy Land too? Like, are they fighting for
no
their own part of it?
The standard Greek style elves have been gone for a really long time. They used to be protectors of the world riding on dragonback, but they've been gone for a really long time. There is a note that has come to Gateway that basically says that because the humans are hunting dragons to create their mechas, that they're coming back with vengeance, and nobody is sure if that's the case. You know of, like, if you're a learned man, you may know of the idea of the connection between orcs, dark elves, and elves, orcs, dark elves, and elves. But it's not super common knowledge that happens. So if you play a character that maybe has like a religious character that has a lot of book skills, that could totally be something that your character is aware of. Let's talk about dwarves. So the idea is that the Mecha are a gift from the dwarves who are dying out. My idea is that dwarves have always lived in the mesa. They've always had an underground network underneath the mesa, and basically kind of like the gene plague from
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. They're dying out. They can't breed. That's kind of my idea. So there's only a few dwarves left. I can tell you that there is a dwarf leader that basically said, you know what? The elves are gone. The dwarves have protected the earth. It's now the humans' turn. And basically the dwarves are arming humans with these mecha because the dwarves believe that the world is ending and that the humans need to be prepared to protect it. So nihilistic, gene-cursed dwarves is basically where I'm going with that. Dwarves in this game, if you play one, have greed. That gets pretty bad sometimes. Any emotional trait like that can be a super negative to your character as well as a big positive for your character. how greed works is your character is covetous of items and things like that, and occasionally in game you can use your greed to boost like your merchant rolls and things like that, resources checks. But at the same time, I can be like, oh, the visiting vendor who's selling you wood also happens to have a really nice wedding band that you want. Roll for greed. And then once you fail, which occasionally will happen, I can go, okay, here's your options. You stand and drool, or you enact, or you stand and drool, or you run away because
I
your
must
greed is
have it.
consuming you.
I think it's called.
Or you can enact the clause, I must have it, which basically your dwarf goes into a golem-like craziness and decides, I must have the precious. The precious will be mine.
So wait a minute.
And
so
bites the
dwarves
finger
are
off.
Ferengi.
What's that?
So dwarfs are Ferengi.
Kind of. Yeah. They're
Do
kinda
they
like
quote
Ferengi.
the rules of acquisition? Because if so, I think I'll play my first ever dwarf.
That would be up to you. If you establish it in game, it's a thing.
You can make friend. You make dying Ferengi dwarves, man.
Since we are talking about crafters, dwarves have a really they have an entire life path that is dedicated to crafters because it's such a big deal in their society. They have a really in-depth hierarchy of crafting if you decide to play one. Again, orcs are off the list, but let's look at the codex because there are some races inside the codex here. So the codex has some weird ones. There are ones that I'm okay with being in the world, but I'm not 100% on them being playable. But I'm open to the discussion of why we should use them or shouldn't use them. So there is a wizard life path inside there. Basically, it allows you to play an arcane character a little bit easier than how Burning Wheel Gold does. Burning Wheel Gold, it makes arcane characters kind of hard to come across. Like you have to build a very specific way to get one. That one gives you more options. Like if you want to be a crazy witch, you can do that through that thing. That I'm completely okay with. Path of Spite is the Dark Elf one. That's not going to be included. Rodin life paths. Rodin are what they sound like. They're rat people. They're interesting. There's two different kinds of Rodin. There's the kind that live in like caves and tunnel systems, and then there are field mice, essentially. And they're highly religious. They believe in a matriarchal god that basically will protect them from famine. She's like a farming goddess.
So you're saying we can play Mouse Guard in the game that Mouse Guard is based on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So we're gonna play Mouse Guard.
Kinda. They're a little bit more human-like. They're a little weird. I don't know that I necessarily want them at all in the game, but does anybody have any particular interest in maybe a Rodin?
I can't say the interest is not there, but I can't say I'm definitely interested because I do rat people too often.
Like you've done, I can remember one.
Nope, I've done at least 3.
Oh, well, shit.
Next one is trolls.
We need rat people so I can call them rat shysters.
No.
Since obviously there's going to be a bigotry there for them not believing in Tamati.
Look, man, no.
Like I said, I'm okay with them. I'm okay if we decide as a group we want them to be in the world.
I wouldn't mind them being in the world because I think that'd be hilarious, especially if we go with the startup of we're starting up in our smart village, and maybe we have to, even though, especially with a super religious person like Brendan, we might have to let go a little of the bigotry just so we can get a better survival startup because these Rodin have been living in the fields their entire life.
Yeah,
so it's like meeting Native Americans for the first time, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if we
killing
include
all of
Rodin,
them,
it would be like
hey, whoa, they're immune
culture.
they're immune to the plagues. Okay, they're rats. They're gonna survive the smallpox blankets.
Shit.
Yeah, I like the idea of them being a native species to this area. Because my idea is the Holy Land is like golden wheat fields. Like it's idealistic or idyllic out there. So I could definitely see at least like the field mice variant being native to this region.
That's what I was saying.
I'm cool with that.
Okay. The next one after that is trolls.
I think I want to be a troll.
Trolls are
I want to be a troll rolling a mecha.
they're weird. That's kind of the best way to describe it. They're very much traditional trolls, but they have like this kind of like tribal mentality to them. Like they're kind of matriarchal. They're somewhat akin to the trolls in like Norse myth. Like they have personality, they have intelligence, they have a society, and they also have like their own magics and things like that. But they're also gigantic hulking monsters. So
There's part of the troll life pass is to be a bridge haunt. I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
they're like Eastern European Norse inspired trolls. They're actually pretty cool. I'm definitely okay with them existing in the world. I don't think there's like tons and tons of them. Like you're not going to go to a city of trolls.
Hey, all I want to do is be a troll and be a crafter, and also ride a mecha.
And also be a rat.
Whoa!
So-
whoa, now you're pushing it.
With that in mind, there is a troll life path called pit setting. That is basically you being a slave troll in the fighting pits and things like that. That would be
Born to the pit.
like you being enslaved by humans for entertainment purpose. Like it's not going to be your own people that did that to you, most likely.
Well, yeah. I was thinking like if I did consider that actually now is a pretty decent start. Like, and then maybe come up with some way of how I got out and now I joined these people.
Yeah.
And because I don't know how to live with trolls. I only know how to live with humans now.
Yeah, like I said, there's definitely not going to be like you might find I would call it like a troll nest, not really even like a village or anything. It's probably just like a family of trolls that are hiding out in the same cave. Like that would be the most structured society you find for trolls.
Yeah.
The next race is called the Great Wolves. Great Wolves are like Princess Mononoke, giant, intelligent wolves. By default, they don't speak language. If we want them to be a thing that players play, I would say that they could speak language, just because it alleviates a lot of issues. Is there any interest in that in the world? I definitely think they should be a legend if they're not in the world.
I mean, I don't know if I mean, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything about anybody wanting to play one, but I definitely do agree that I would be cool to have them in the world, minimum, something like that.
Okay. Also to note, their special thing is they are ghost hunters, essentially, which is kind of cool about them.
Of course they are, because why wouldn't a giant, smart talking wolf be anything more special than that?
Yeah, and pretty much anything that's not human has what's called an emotional trait. That's like the grief and the greed that we were talking about. I think trolls might have hatred, if I remember right. I have to double check that. But the wolves, they have like an ancestor taint, is what they call it. Essentially, if they become consumed by it, they become more animal-like. If they are lower in it, they're bad at magic, but they're more human-like. It's kind of similar to the way Mouse Guard actually works for its humanity thing. So those are the main things. Oh, one other note about giant wolves. By default, there is a life path called Slave to the Legion. That whole life path would definitely make sense, because essentially, by default, great wolves are used as hunting wolves by the orcs. So if you play a wolf, you could have been a slave to the orcs in the south and broken free. So those are kind of the extra races. Is there any of those that people are really dying for? My intent was to mainly have humans, but I'm actually getting a little bit soft on that. So if you guys want to include other things, we could definitely do that.
I'm good.
No, Jeremy.
What?
What?
What'd you say about me?
I said no.
What?
No trolls.
What? Come on.
No.
I'm good with just humans and dwarves.
But leave that one troll.
No.
What if the troll has a top hat and a monocle?
My suspension of disbelief
Like-
is gone.
I would literally like build myself to have the least amount of strength of a troll. I'd be a runt of a troll.
No.
There is a run to life path. Just pointing that out.
Exactly. And I'd even play a non. I'd be playing like the most demure, fucking troll ever.
No.
I think we should put this up for a vote. Because Murdoch's just saying no. What is Brendan saying? What is Nate saying? And what is my Lord and Savior saying?
They're not saying anything because they know I'm right.
Jeremy, you just want to play a troll for the sake of being a troll.
Shut up.
We all know this.
Because he is a troll.
I was gonna say, to be honest, there is, if you haven't had a chance to look, humans have tons and tons of options available to them. So I mean, if you want to be a troll to be a troll, that's a fine reason to be a troll. But everything you want to do, you can probably accomplish by being a human.
Everything you want to troll could probably be trolled better by a human.
All I'm saying is, you said there's a
Humans are the ultimate troll.
No. All I'm saying is, you said there's a giant bridge, right? That
Yes.
connects gateways to the rest of the world, and I could be a troll that
I
bridge
thought the
connects
same
that
fucking
bridge.
thing.
So
I thought that same thing.
So, Jeremy, I am okay if there is a troll that exists underneath that bridge. But if you were that troll, you would not be a part of this game. I can tell you that right now.
But there better be a damn troll there.
I'm
Right.
okay with that.
All right, cool.
That also gives a reason for knights to help pilgrims across the gigantic bridge.
Just you could even make it a troll nest. Like if it's a giant ass
it's
bridge, they
definitely got to
probably
be a nest because, like,
That's
the
a big ass
knights
bridge.
have
They
been
have to
dealing with
band
this
together.
issue for a while.
All right, I'm okay with this now.
Little do we all know, there's a troll mega city under that bridge.
Just thriving. Like that's how trolls become like adults in society. They have to go hassle some pilgrims.
Yeah, exactly.
I like
Give
that.
me your wallet. What?
Look, why should I?
Over time,
Because-
the bridge became more and more sturdy. It stopped swaying with the wind. Little do we know, it's because there's the weight of like wood structure and more trolls living underneath it.
Now, there's one thing I need to make sure. You said like pretty much going all the way down to the bottom is like not incomprehensible, right? To get down to the bottom, like nobody really can see where the bottom is.
Trolls climb up.
No. I was gonna say trolls
They're from
never
the
see the
jungle.
bottom, and they're like halfway down. They built it like just straight,
Yeah.
like on the bridge.
Like
They live in caves in the cliffs.
like for the most part, people don't really know what's down in the jungles below. Like there's been enough researchers that have gone down there in the past, like funded ridiculously expensive voyages to go down there. Think of it like Columbus traveling to America. Like one guy did it by accident. Like
But
that's
when
how
they
it
go
how
down.
that is.
Hmm.
That's how America's down there. Like there's people that have come back and they've reported that there are trolls and dinosaurs down there, but they're also insane people, and you're not sure if you should trust them or not. Because as far as you're
Because-
concerned, the world ends if you fall off the edge.
Why the fuck would there be trolls and dinosaurs? Now that makes no goddamn sense.
Speaking of which,
What's a
that is
dinosaur?
a very valid tactic to push your enemies off the edge.
Hold on. So you're saying we can be land pirates and make people walk the plank?
I'm saying that there has probably been a battle in the past where it was decided by pushing an entire army over the edge of a continent.
Mm.
Then we're just feeding the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls.
Hmm.
All right, humans it is.
Okay. So, as far as big picture, what we're kind of talking about is the taxes have been, or the taxes and tariffs have been out of control in Gateway. You guys have decided to make your own establishment. Do you guys want to literally just pick a spot in the and build, or do you want to have like one of the churches on the road and build a city around it? Because I have an idea that there's like this pilgrim route, and along the pilgrim route, there's a bunch of churches that
I dig
have
that.
pretty much nothing around them.
Well, one of the things I could definitely see is if Brendan is trying to be like, because Brendan has the most solid idea. That's why I'm going off this, Brendan.
Right.
If you're trying to be like, the good-natured priest, whatever, right? And are you like, would it be his idea or him trying
That's
to?
So
what I'm curious about. Like, it depends on what you guys want to do. Like, how does the
right.
I can't think of
Okay.
the word for over the head.
What I was thinking was, is if somebody does want to be a faith character, these churches that are along the road, they're kind of like monasteries is kind of the best way to describe them. They're going to be like a church / bunk room for the people that run the church kind of thing. If somebody wanted to play a character of faith, I think it would be interesting if their character was like one of the priests within that monastery, and you guys are building around his monastery. That gives that character a lot of purpose and buy-in in the conversations about, oh, well, I don't want to forge that close to the church because it's going to make the church smell, that sort of thing. Like, his character is already invested in the church itself that exists there.
That's exactly what I was going for. Yeah.
So let's talk about culture. My suggestion was we lean a little bit more towards, like, other than Mecha, essentially like a 1300s type culture, 1300s to 1600s. That's what Burning Wheel does really well. Specifically, you'll notice that it's designed for like 1300s to 1600s France, because there is some French words inside the book. It's not super common that they come up, but sometimes they do. Like the nobles have like noblesse oblige or noblesse oblige or something like that.
Noblesse oblige.
But they do come up every so often. Do we want to change that from like France to something else? Like, do we want to be more of like an
German.
Eastern European, a British, Scots, anything like that?
No, I'm fine with it being how it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Maybe
So-
maybe have the humans be sort of Frankish, like what you're saying with France, and maybe the dwarves. Being the word for this, but
The dwarves are going to have their own
German.
culture. It'll be different. Since it's mostly humans, the other thing that I want to talk about is every race gets what's called cultural traits. And that lets you know kind of who they are. These are like stereotypes, essentially.
Mhm.
You can play to them or against them. It's up to you. But when we decide on like where your character's from, he's going to get some of those stereotypes added to his character as traits. So like maybe you come from a country that is vaguely Norwegian, and you're going to have the character traits of tall, blonde, and attractive, because Norwegians. Your character instead, you could be like, no, I mean, I'm from there, but I am definitely not attractive. You can do that. That's fine. And people will notice that your character is from there and that you were an ugly bastard. Things like the traits and stuff like that can change as the campaign goes. In fact, those traits that you don't match up with from your culture will probably go away the first time we do a trait vote. So I'm basically thinking on the big continent, there's a bunch of like smaller kingdoms, and that there's this holy kingdom that is the area past Gateway. The Holy Kingdom that is like the Gateway area, it's a bunch of petty kings, and that the church pretty much runs it from there. So if you guys build up enough that the church recognizes you, somebody could become a petty king. And then if you decide to get crazy, you could align all the petty kings, become a high king, and say fuck the church and kick them out. And
Fuck you,
Bogard the
Brendan.
Holy Land.
Get out of my kingdom. We're gonna farm rice, and we're gonna like it.
So I want you to kind of think about like a similar region or something that you want for your culture that you're from if you're not from this region. Let's kind of talk about this region first, though. Let me find my notepad real quick. Rumble. This'll do. All right, so for the Holy Land, because this is where some of the characters might be from. I don't think the Holy Land is so new that nobody would have been born here, kind of thing. I'm thinking since I'm going to portray most of the NPCs from this area, I'm going to write down what theirs are to give you an idea. I think that they're going to be pious, generally speaking, and short. Whenever you have one of these traits, it's not just that you are short, it's like you're noticeably short. People know that about you. It's like when you walk up to somebody, you're like, oh, this guy's really short. That's the kind of thing. And let's see. Mustachioed.
That's the style of the times.
Yeah, I think it's considered kind of like a foppish thing inside this region. Like they have like very elaborate mustaches that they groom and they like wax them and stuff like that. Like they'll do stuff like curl the ends. They'll do something like that.
The fucking weird kid.
It's definitely a fashion thing. So the next question is, what conflict are the characters involved in? What are the sides? What's wrong? Our conflict is the fact that the tariffs are too high. While that's not like a traditional let's go fight the dragon type conflict, that is the conflict that your characters are facing.
The rent is too damn high.
Yeah, it's a very mundane thing, but I think it's going to work for what we want. The sides are basically going to be other merchants and things like that. So that's going to be who you're going to directly involve yourself with. I think there's going to be some people like this NPC that I wrote that are like knights on the road that you're going to encounter with, but it's not going to be like they're your main concern. Your main concern is going to be like competing with other kingdoms over the resources that are kind of limited inside this land. While it's really idyllic and easy to live and grow things, like there's not a lot of wood. Like you guys got to import that stuff. If you want stone, you got to go to the south where the orcs are, that sort of thing. So like resources is going to be one of the things that you compete over. Let's see, what physical place does the conflict take place in? What's the ecology, environment, and place? We've kind of discussed that. It's basically a plateau that is like an idyllic kind of like wheat field of gold kind of place. What is the name of the most important place in this setting? Not the capital or any dumb shit like that. This is from the creator. But the place where all the action is going down. That's going to be the city that we're actually building. Do we have a name for it, or are we just going to start with like the village and we'll fill that in later?
I think we should name the city something that happens naturally.
Or maybe after the church or monastery.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we're building around the church, I mean, I think the name of the church or something like that, or might have a influence
Okay.
on the name.
So for the church, I went with kind of a early British, like Roman Empire collapse, early British type naming system. Like there's a big holy city called Seswich. Gateway is a very English term as well. So if you want to name it inside the church's naming structure, it's probably going to be like an English name.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to come up with something, or you guys want to kind of pick around some ideas and chat later on?
I think we should figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think we as players will have more, will care more about
Totally
a thing
fine
we
with that.
named ourselves, and it'll be like our baby.
Yeah,
totally fine with that.
don't name it. Don't name it. Oh crap, you named it.
So let's see here. What is the name of a faraway place that people talk about, dream about, or mutter about underneath their breath? I think we kind of established that as the jungles below you. Like there's
Yeah.
something exotic about it. There's definitely voyages that get piloted out there, but most people die going there. Like it's
Speaking of which, Chris, I have a
strange.
question.
uh-huh.
Can I be from the jungles, but no one believes me?
I'm okay with it. There's actually a trait called
Outstanding.
Cassandra that I believe is only about fortune telling, but we could basically give you a trait that is very similar to Cassandra. That like just people don't believe you. You say where you're from. You're being completely honest, and generally they write you off.
But it's his faith. He
Yeah.
he knows what's down there, and he's trying to warn us of the danger, but nobody believes him.
Yeah, that definitely could be a thing. Maybe the dwarves are right that there is an apocalyptic event happening, and you left the jungle because it's already happening there.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it.
Okay.
That
Also-
actually feeds into what I thought I wanted to do, because the second you mentioned Mecha, I'm like, all right, well, I know what I'm doing.
Okay. Excellent.
Also, I've come up with a character concept, Chris.
There is a second faraway place. It's going to be the land that elves retreated to. Nobody really knows anything about it. They just know that the elves left one day.
Bitchington?
Yeah, Bitchington.
But
It's one of the new neighborhoods. It's Bitchington Flats. Let's see here.
Because they, bitched out.
Let's see. Who are the antagonists and who are the opposing to the goals of the characters? That's pretty easy. That's going to be opposing merchants, religious sources, because you guys are in the Holy Land.
Gateway is our
Gateway
antagonist.
is going to be a big competitor, especially as you guys get bigger. Gateway is going to become a problem because if you guys don't levy tariffs or you don't levy tariffs to the extreme that Gateway has done, it's going to make Gateway look bad to its citizens. It's going to start losing citizens wanting to move to your town, that sort of thing.
We should build like
and there's
5
going to be a
gateway
political issue
from
there.
them.
Yeah. I don't think the 2 orders of knights that protect the roads are necessarily going to be against you guys. That could change through play, but I see no reason that the Holy Order of St. Justin would be against you.
Especially if we're like building off of a religious place in the first place.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is this the Holy Order of St. Justin case?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I expected that immediately when I saw the name.
What's the other holy order's name?
It is the Order of the Gate, and they wear a cloak clasp to identify them that looks like a shackle lock.
Are they led by the gatekeeper?
Yeah, they're called the Gatekeepers.
Are there key masters?
I was thinking that there would be things like that, like one of their ranks is called a key master, and he wears like a like completely ornamental set of keys, or maybe they actually have a purpose. Like there's
We don't know what they
specific
are.
door inside Gateway that can only be opened with these keys, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool because that would give a reason for anybody wanting to play like a roguish character or at least build into a roguish character to have a reason to try to take it away from them.
Yeah.
At least
It
the
also-
belief that it might actually open something would be hilarious.
I think that's more important.
Yeah.
That we believe that there's something in Gateway that it opens, and we think
Yeah.
we found it or something. and
Yeah,
you
like
steal
there's
it, and they're just
definitely
fucking orphans.
rumors for like the rogues in the area that there's like a vault under the city that only the keeper has the keys for, or something ridiculous like that. I also like the idea that there are multiple key keepers, so it's not like a rogue can go steal one set of keys. He's got to go steal 12 sets of keys. And have like 12 rogues to do it.
Actually, I
Like,
was gonna
it's
say,
nonsense.
what if there's like 4, or at least one for each cardinal direction?
That's fine. Yeah.
Because if Gateway is supposed to be like, a big pilgrimage city to show that anybody who's traveled.
Okay.
Just a thought.
So 4 cardinal directions, 4 key keepers. I like that.
And the rumors might possibly include that you need all 4 keys to actually enter the vault.
Yeah.
I don't think if it is a vault, I don't think it should hold money. It should hold forbidden knowledge, kind of
Yeah.
like the Vatican's secret library.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
there's a bunch of rumors about
Or,
what, like
you know,
nobody really knows for certain.
or
Like some
a
people say
Balo
there's
whipping a
money, some
dragon.
people say
Who
there's
knows?
stuff in there. Yeah, like if you ask that one crazy dwarf down the road, it's the last dwarven woman. That's what's held in the back. Like
Those bastards.
everybody has some sort of reason behind what's in there. I actually think 4 is too easy to accomplish, so I'm going to up that to 8.
That's
keeping
fine.
the idea of a compass rose.
I
Just because
like
if it's 4, I think thieves would have got their shit together and stole the keys.
No, it's okay. I understand. I was just trying to make it more thematic.
I also like the idea of 8 because that means that if we were to play rogues at another time in this world, we could totally do like an Ocean's 11 nonsensical game where the whole game is about stealing the keys and getting in the vault.
Like the entire point of the game.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that now?
We could.
We could actually. Now that we created it, now we know it exists. Now we can actually totally do this.
Yeah, your characters could find out about the keys and be like, we're fucking getting in that vault.
Like fuck those dinosaurs, fuck those trolls.
Whatever
fuck
happens
this
to be in the vault could be the key to taking down Gateway.
It could even have a boat. You know how we always wanted one of those.
Always wanted a boat.
I mean, a boat is a boat, but that vault could have anything, including a boat.
Honestly, that would be enough of a character choice right there. It'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think man has the ability to fly, generally speaking. Like
Whoa.
I think that there's
You've seen people jump off the cliff, right?
Yeah,
That's
I was going to say
flew.
that's the extent of flight.
One
I
dude had
think
a
that
squirrel
there
suit that
might
didn't work.
be- What do you
Well,
guys
we
think
didn't know
about
it didn't
maybe,
work. He
like,
just never came back.
giant eagles being in the setting?
Giant
Like-
what?
Giant eagles being in the setting, maybe? Like that's the only real means of flight. Like that's how sometimes people traveled with messages. My
I have
only
a
problem
better
with that
idea.
is giant eagles and flight generally changes combat drastically when you look at the war scale. As
I have a
soon as you
different
get
idea.
flight, things change really.
I was
really
gonna say
quickly.
I don't think flight should be a thing because from what you said earlier,
I like that it's an elf only thing. It
Yeah,
makes
that-
the elves very
exactly.
like mystic and crazy.
from what you said earlier, pretty much very few things. I mean, elves having their
Well,
flight were
so
the advantage they had.
real quick, without flight, how do they go down into the jungle and get back up?
Long
series of
ropes.
levies, or not levies, series of pulleys and things like that. Basically, somebody has spent his entire life building a scaffolding and pulley system to make an elevator.
I have a different idea that's not eagles.
Parachutes.
Giant vultures.
Ooh.
Only time giant vultures show up is when like death and plague ravage a land or something. And for some reason they don't contract plague or disease or anything. They just eat all the dead things. They're scavengers. They're literally vultures. They're just the size of like a school bus.
So Argentavis.
Sure.
I'm okay with that. Oh, so I thought about another idea. If we don't want to do elevators, giant lizards. That's how they get to the jungle.
I'm okay with
There's-
giant lizards. too.
There's like giant lizards are a thing. They exist in the world. Sometimes people use them as mounts, and they can climb down the wall.
It would give us a reason to have giant lizards because giant lizards.
I could have a cart that's pulled by 2 giant lizards.
I'm okay with this.
I'm really not opposed to this giant lizard plan.
Giant
Yeah,
lizard.
no, I'm totally cool with giant
If there's
lizards.
di-
Hold on. Giant lizards should replace horses.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
we don't have
entirely
what's a horse?
Yeah, we don't have horses. No
What's a
equus.
horse?
Just giant lizards.
Okay,
What is an equus?
we've got.
I like the idea. I like the
we've
idea
got
that
some
nobody
Usagi
likes.
Jimbo going on here now.
Huh?
Yeah.
We got some Usagi Jimbo going on now. All right, cool.
There's
I also
only giant-
want to impose the idea that nobody interacts with the vultures because they're like a really bad omen.
Yeah, I like that. I like that they're an ominous bird.
Yeah.
and
That's
that
why I
they
want.
shouldn't be anywhere that
eagles are
doesn't
like a
have
sign of
tons
hope.
of carnage. Like they show up when wars happen, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I think the giant vulture should come from below the mesa,
Yeah.
below the cloud line.
Yeah,
They
I
can
think
fly up
I think
and
that
everyone's
that
like,
would
"Oh,
help
crap."
add to their
and
mysticism.
I
But
definitely like the idea that the mesa is above the clouds, like that the clouds sit like just at the ground level. So like there is what people call the cloud sea.
Then they fly up and they do their surfing.
Mhm.
Let's see. Alternatively, okay. So this one's kind of a longer one. Imagine all the rooms, or all the characters are standing in a room, ruin, or field, with the antagonists and their minions. What do the antagonists want from the meeting? What do the characters want from the meeting? And that's where your game begins. This is one of his suggestions. I think this is fine. I don't think we need to know much about our characters to kind of discuss what you have in mind as far as like what kind of things you would want out of the situation. I think the scenario would have been like, this is definitely like a background event. Characters were basically sitting inside the office of the Keeper of Coin in Gateway with a petition about like dropping the levy, or dropping, not the levies. I don't know why I've got levy stuck in my head. Dropping the tariffs to a reasonable level. Like you guys weren't even asking for a whole lot. Like you just asked for them to be reasonable. And you basically pissed off the Master of Coin and were more or less told to leave the city. And I imagine that at least one of you was like, well, fine, I'll go make my own city with hookers and blackjack and no tariffs.
Were we oh god, what's the term? Were we exiled is the question.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Either implied or
do you think you guys were exiled? I do like the idea of exileship because it automatically creates animosity between the two of you.
I'm
I
okay
think-
with it, especially because of the character concept I came.
I
up
think some of us should be exiled. Like I'm crazy saying I'm from the jungle. Like I'm just better off being gone.
Yeah, like you probably were exiled. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, like I get that.
with. I mean, that would work for me because of the life path I want to take, which
I
would
think you
require
guys were
being
asked
out.
to leave, and then maybe those of you that got exiled went back in and did something stupid that got you exiled. And we could fill in that blank later. But it would be something like graffiti, or maybe you knocked over a bunch of stalls, or like
I
you
stole them
burned
back.
down a tariff station.
Well, this does actually kind of fit into my character concept, like at least how he starts out, because I had the idea of playing someone who is originally born into one of the Die House families, but then through whatever means, maybe he's a bastard, maybe like he did something wrong, then he gets kicked out.
Cool. I'm really glad somebody decided to embrace the dies, because I thought that was the coolest thing that I wrote down.
The
Right.
dice.
Yeah, there's 5 dies that are made from rare materials that are really important to the church. They're considered the 5 holy colors. One of them is available only inside the Holy Lands. It's indigo. So like if you play a character that's from that family, I think that family has its own set of cultural things. Like people
like
from
the
that family, they're
Habsburgs
definitely
almost?
going to have like a trait that says stained hands. Absolutely, because it's indigo, your hands are always stained. Like anybody from those ink families should have that.
That's cool. Like a general idea for the character concept I'm thinking of is that he's 3 main things. He's from the Die families, he's an artist, and he's a mage. Not quite sure how I'm going to spin those life paths together, but
Yeah, and that was one of the things that we talked about in the chat.
Yeah.
Originally, when I mentioned art magic, Tom thought I meant like painting and your painting became alive.
You could totally
which you
do
can-
that with art
You
magic.
can totally do with art magic as a construction. So I'm glad you decided to embrace that. I kind of thought about that earlier this week.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna be. I know I'm gonna be playing like probably the most straight.
Mundane.
No, actually, I want to go with a wizard life path. To be fair, but it's gonna be a crafter.
Okay, cool. So
I think
let's talk
dwarf is
about-
probably really good for you then.
Nope, I want
Their
to.
magic is tied into their crafting.
Yes, but I want.
Let's
It's a.
actually talk about magic now, because this is actually where it comes up inside the questions, but it also happens to be a really good time. What type of magic do we want in the world? His suggestion is to pick 1 or 2 of the following systems, but I'm okay with just throwing a bunch of magic out in the world, saying that it does exist, but it's not like you're going to find a bunch of mages all over the place, or maybe
some
we
people
do
just
have a ton
do
of
a couple
mages.
different things.
I
It's
would
up to us.
I like the idea of almost the Nicaea Council of this, whatever this world is
Right.
basically saying magic is heretical. It goes against the teachings of Tamati, because it's like, and then you can have those factions of the church saying, no, magic brings us closer to Tamati. And so you
Yeah,
do
I think-
have religious divide there.
I was gonna say, I think if the church says it, it's a new thing. Like the patriarch and the council all got together last Tuesday and they're like, you know what, magic is bad. And now the whole church is like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not true. We've been doing magic for years.
I mean, hell, that's where miracles come from, right?
Well, that's exactly what happened with Council of Nicaea. Is there's so many different beliefs about Christianity
Mhm.
that Emperor Justinian tried to standardize everything, and it ended up being his greatest failure. Is basically the Council of Nicaea. So
Yeah, I
if
like
you
that too, because if we do have a holy person in the group, it provides him a lot of chances to vertically climb the church as it's going through this crazy period.
exactly.
So
Also, it can provide a lot of social upheaval and other reasons other than tariffs that people might, we don't all have to be crafters.
Yeah.
We can have a reason for Brendan beyond, this is my abbey. Well, even if it's your abbey, you probably still receive some sustenance from Gateway. It
Mhm.
now provides him a reason to break off of Gateway because that's where the patriarch is, and this what he might perceive to be a heretical belief that magic is wrong.
Yeah,
Brendan.
and whatever way that like whoever our holy person is, if we have a holy person believes, I am by default going to make Gateway do the other thing. Just
So I've been looking at life stats. So I'd like to go the monastery route, and I would like so you said there's like rolling waves of wheat all over the way around. It's like a paradise. I would like
yes.
to bring from my homeland brewing.
Brewing. Okay, that's definitely a thing.
So I'd like it to be a brewing monastery,
Okay.
and that can be sort of my trade I bring to it.
Brendan,
Well-
you're really robotic right now.
Yeah, you're super robot right now, but let's talk about the types of magic real quick, and we'll check off which ones we want to keep because some of them introduce whole new consequences for them existing. So faith, I already want, regardless of anything else, because I think that's very integral to my idea of what this game is.
So we also have art magic.
So the opposite side of faith is blasphemy, which is basically faith in everything else. I want that to exist too. I don't think humans really do it. I think that that's more of like a weird creatures and things like that type of side. There is what's called corruption. I'll talk about that last. Corruption's kind of special because it exists next to every other kind of magic. Sorcery and any of its abstractions, which is basically art magic. I think that should exist. I don't want traditional sorcery. I want that gone. It's just art magic.
There is one magic I'd like to also throw in because it's the character concept I want would be.
I haven't
using it.
gotten to that magic yet.
Mm.
So the next one is natural. I like natural a lot. Natural is hilarious. It's basically a magic system that works like Wises do. If your character, which I feel like Murdoch might be interested in natural magic here, basically your character gets to make up folklore. Like if there are zombies, throw beans at them to get rid of them.
God damn it!
And it is not fake. It is real shit magic. Like when you throw magic beans at a zombie, that zombie goes the fuck away.
Oh, God damn it! God damn it! This reminds me of the Gentleman Old Spice class. Did you read that?
Yeah, I saw it.
There's a thing that says one of the class features that they came out with is like random shit that
Yeah.
you can do, and the DM just has to roll with it.
Yep.
I
So
mean,
the cool thing is if you come up with folklore magic, like depending on how crazy it is, determines how hard it is to make that thing exist. But once you make it exist in the world, or I say something exists in the world, your character can use that knowledge. So if I say that like the village you're in, everybody puts a bowl of salt on their doorstep to keep goblins from stealing their children. That's a legit fact in the world. If you don't have salt in front of your door, goblins may take your children.
We mean May.
Probably
best part
will
is
take your
like-
children.
Murdoch, you need to do that.
Yeah.
So the question is, if a player plays it, it's real and it exists in the world and it has real repercussions. If a player doesn't play it, I think I'm going to keep it in the world, but whether it works or not is questionable. Spirit binding is the next one. Spirit binding is basically the spirits of elements and things like that, think like L5R magic.
Hmm.
You pull the spirits of shadow or the spirits of light or magic or the spirits of fire or stone, that sort of thing. And you get them to do your bidding. It's basically like a summoning an elemental servant to do things for you. And you eventually become like one with the element that you summon the most with, because you can get these marks and things like that. It's interesting, but it's a very hands-off magic. Is anybody interested in either that existing or playing something like that?
I think we already have L5R. I'm a pass on that.
Yeah, I'd be
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be cool without it.
The next one I kind of don't want because it introduces a huge conflict on faith. Summoning. Summoning works both ways. You can summon demons and you can summon angels or fire elementals or whatever you want. Summoning is cool because you don't need special training or a special skill for it. Literally, any farmer on the road that learns how to, the book of necromancy can summon whatever he wants. The problem becomes if you can summon angels, you can force them to answer a lot of God questions.
Hmm.
I actually want that to
If
be.
we're
in the
okay
game.
with that, understand that does come with the repercussions of you. The world has the ability to summon angels and ask them God questions.
I think I see now. I like that because now
is
it brings
very
in the
hard
whole.
to do. Let me put it out there, though. Summoning magic is super hard. If you guys try to summon like an angel at the very beginning of the game, it is first off probably going to be impossible for your character to do, and it's going to end with terrible repercussions.
I think I like the idea of of summoning magic in the world simply because it can call into belief like the questions like when people are corrupt and whatnot. Angels can be kind of like, you summoned me, but you don't really have control over me.
Yes,
You know,
that is very much a factor.
you're not pious. I'm not going to do what you want me to do, and I'm just going to leave. And now you've trapped this angel onto the plane, and that can be hugely heretical. Like
we did when we did the Pathfinder game where Jeremy's character, the bard, got swooped up by the demon that like completely played to his thirst for knowledge.
Yeah,
Hey man.
That's
Whoa.
what
He
happened.
played. No. He didn't. I didn't play to his third. He didn't. You know what I mean.
The demon definitely went towards your thirst for knowledge and used you like a tool for his own
And I used him for a tool for my own means. I think we got both mutually got.
I could totally see that was Milo, right?
Yes, it was.
That was
Yeah,
Milo.
I could totally see
The
like
bard.
a Milo character working, and that if we have summoning magic.
She's
for
monger.
like
I'm not
for
doing
like
it.
summoning,
He's
it's like
Meister, okay?
you know, angels come and they're like, you just pulled me off the front lines with a battle with this demon. I was the general.
Yeah,
Like-
and I feel like in the past too, like there's definitely some abuse of summoning magic. So angels are not super, like anything that you summon is generally not super for it. Like evil things probably are because they're going to use you as a tool, but definitely not angels. Like I imagine that in the past, the patriarch has summoned an angel to stand in front of a court and be like, yeah, that person murdered somebody. Okay, can I go back to war with the demons now? Like, like there have definitely been some petty summons in the past.
I don't think they just necessarily need to be petty. We don't have control over which angel we're summoning, so they could be in the middle of like all of a sudden this naked angel appears and you're just like, well, shit.
Yeah, the summoning, when you first summon something, you don't really have control of what you are summoning. Like you can kind of say, oh, I want an angel general, but you can't say I want general blah blah blah. Once you know the thing's name, you can specifically summon it, but until then it's really hard. So I have a feeling that there's not a whole lot of named angels or anything inside. Like the patriarch probably has a book of names that he keeps with him, but he probably doesn't have like a ton of names in there. There's probably like 2 or 3 names.
And that could be seen as super heretical. Like,
yeah,
that could be one of the myths of what's in the vault is the names.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that could be, that's important because that sort of thing is like, we could see that as we need to destroy this book. We shouldn't ever summon these things. We,
Absolutely.
power beyond our comprehension type thing.
So I like the idea that summoning is a thing, can be done. Huge taboo.
Hmm.
I think if we're gonna include this much magic, magic needs to be super rare, or else the church would never be in the position of power it's in.
I think if we were to make like a pie chart, faith would be like 85% of that pie chart.
Mm.
And then there's other magics beyond that, like that exist. I think natural magic is probably the next biggest chunk. I think that there's just a ton of people that practice it. It's a very impractical magic. It doesn't really do a whole lot of things.
But it
And it's
but
all
it can help you
based around a
lure
lot of
zombies away
superstition.
with magical beings.
Yeah, and it's like based around superstition. Like there's not a ton of zombies floating around in the world, at least yet, because we haven't gotten to that type of magic yet.
I like the idea that every town has a bean farmer, a dedicated
Like-
bean farmer.
I use the bean example because literally,
Excuse
if
me.
you go to natural magic, there's a
Lagoon.
picture of an old lady with a salt circle around her throwing beans at a zombie. It's great. It's the best picture in the book.
Murdoch, you just need to just create your character, come up, just hold a bunch of shit, so that whenever you need to come up with something, you just this is what I have to solve this problem.
The next
try to
time
make
I
it a real
is
thing.
enchanting, which it sounds like from
Yes,
what we've discussed, that's something we're interested in.
I want that.
I'm okay with enchanting because enchanting is also how the Draxon, the mecha, work.
Which is why I want it.
Right. I think regardless of like what anyone else is doing, like enchanting is also kind of plays into what my character's gonna do, which is I make paintings and stuff, and I can like enchant those, or like, okay,
So
I need your already a
how
bit
you want to
better.
go. Like if you want to do enchanting to make like magic items, like you want
No,
to make a painting that can make somebody better at trading, that's enchanting.
Yeah.
If you want to do like a painting that comes alive and casts a spell, that's more art magic. You can definitely do both, but I'm just showing you what the difference is.
Right.
The last type of magic, or there's two types of magic actually after that. Death arts, which is basically necromancy.
Sold.
It is very hard for you to maintain control of death arts for a long period of time.
Even more sold.
Even more sold. Yeah.
It's
harder the challenge, the better.
It works kind of similar to summoning. Essentially, you have to be near like fresh dead bodies to use them. They only last for a certain period.
That's easy to
If you want to make, basically, if you want to make an undead army, your character has to have like a living army to make sure that the undead army doesn't fall apart. It's a very impractical magic, but it has very short-term power. Is kind of the trick to death arts.
Unless you include blood magic.
Yes. Blood magic is where it gets crazy. Blood magic is an add-on. I was going to include this as the last two because the last two are add-ons that can be put on anything. Blood magic is torturous blood magic. It's not using your own blood. It's using someone else's blood.
Nice, sold.
So I have a character concept now, but continue.
The patriarch is using blood magic.
I was going to say it would definitely be seen as like a terrible thing by most people. I think the patriarchy does justify it. Like I think that there's definitely like a list of sins that if you commit them, like adultery is on the list. Something like stuff that enough people do, that the character or the
no, adultery shouldn't be on there.
Like when you confess the sin, your character or that person.
Don't be adding this into this.
Well, hold on. Like basically, I want it to be like when you confess the sin, part of your punishment is you go take a certain amount of lashes. And when they take the lashes, it's a cat of nine tails. It cuts their back. The blood is collected, and then the church uses blood magic. I'm totally fine with that.
I don't think it should be known that the church uses blood magic.
No, I don't think it's public knowledge, but the church does.
Because the church doesn't actually have. Let's say the matriarchy, whatever, the patriarchy doesn't actually have enough faith in Tamati himself.
It burns heretics at the stake. Boom.
I was gonna say,
like the church has like heretical trials, and like one of the punishments is the death of 1,000 cuts over a drain that happens to collect the blood, but nobody knows where that blood's going or anything, right?
That's kind of like Melisandre, where she sacrifices people and she makes miracles out of it.
Yeah. So I think that's a thing. I don't think it's common knowledge. I don't think it's.
I don't
something-
even think it should be rear knowledge. I think it should be
Yeah.
like it's
Restricted.
it should just be like it should be such an affront.
It should be
to-
like the patriarch and his council really are the only ones that know.
I wouldn't even say that all of the council knows. I would say that it's
It's the patriarch and his.
Well, someone
arcane
needs to be
advisor.
present at all of the stake burnings to actually be
What if-
using the blood magic.
What if the council is like an elected position, but the patriarch also has like his circle of blood, which is just like a group of
Yeah,
people
I was gonna
from
say
all
like the
sorts of
Majestic
ranks in
12.
society.
Almost the Majestic 12 conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like there's a few kings, and those kings are from like hugely long dynastic lines that the patriarchy is always supported, even when they've made huge mistakes. They're like,
Yeah,
no, he's totally fine.
I really like that. I just wrote down a note that says Majestic 12 equals blood magic.
There you go. In the real world and now fantasy.
Yep.
Well, there's 12 of them. They're goddamn majestic.
Yeah, that's it.
Which we can totally change. I mean, the number doesn't matter, but I really like the idea of it being like this council where, like, for some reason, there's like a crafter from one village that is actually connected. He's a person with like an incredible amount of resources and nonsense, but for whatever reason, he poses his everyday life as a blacksmith shoeing lizards
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. But he's secretly like he's the one that secretly gives the mayor
Yeah.
or the king his messages from the Majestic 12 what's it called? Anagram here or whatever they're
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I like that. The other one is called corruption. Corruption is like Call of Cthulhu level type corruption.
No.
It's not quite the nonsense of Call of Cthulhu. Like it can divulge into that, but it's more like the devil meets Call of Cthulhu kind of corruption. Like there's dark forces, they're not really defined. And your character can slowly give into corruption for immediate power, but his body transforms. It's more like
So,
I think that'd be
Warhammer
better in a
40K.
game dedicated to that theme.
So
It's-
for me,
It's more like Warhammer 40K kind of corruption.
whenever I hear about corruption in games, it's always like, well, it's really easy to tell this guy is evil because he's got a third fucking arm.
Yeah, that's gonna be the downfall. Is like there'll be somebody who has a split tongue, and you're like, well, I guess you're fucking corrupted.
Yeah, like I just don't like that stuff. Now, on the flip side, I think that should be something that if my character's from the jungle, exists for him.
I like that a lot, actually. Like corruption magic is a thing. It happens in the jungles, but it's like a distant threat.
Yeah, and in fact, it could be one of those things where it like, hey, the people up here in the Holy Land, because faith is the primary magic up here, have never experienced corruption, but that could be like the coming doom from the jungle almost. Is like,
I like
the
that.
corruption's coming.
I was gonna say, and while your character may not necessarily have corruption himself,
Yeah.
So here's the trick. If you don't want to have corruption, since you come from a place that has corruption, don't use magic.
Yeah, I didn't plan on using magic anyway.
Because if you use magic, you have corruption at the start of the game.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't use magic. The character concept, literally, I want is the Draco. He's from the jungle, knows what's going to happen, sees the coming apocalypse, and realized that getting into one of these mechs is the only way to save himself. At the start of the game, he doesn't care about anybody else. He cares about himself and being saved because he's worried.
Okay.
Like, I need to
like
save
that.
myself because
Any type of
everything is
character that has a lot of strong beliefs and convictions works really well in this game. So there's other questions. I don't really want to touch them until we start play. Like there's a question here that talks about like, what does sorcery look like? Do people wave their hands and chant words, or is it something different? I think that's going to be more of a like in-game question. Also, for that particular one, I think it's more of a depends on who's casting kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's trappings. That's something that character by character.
That's more trappings and stuff. So I've got some traits for the Holy Land. The main continent, I think that there's multiple nations in there. So if you wanted to be from the main continent and you don't want to have the same character traits that somebody else does, we could just say you come from another place. We don't have to name that place or define anything about it right now. We can do that later. but it sounds like we've got enough to really kind of start to build our character concepts. Some of you already have some ideas. I know Murdoch just mentioned his. Tom, are you still really liking the idea of like this dye painter enchanter type person?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. What you want to do is open up Roll20, and then you'll go to the character sheet. The character sheet itself has 4 tabs. Go to the one that says character burner.
Chris, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
How long is the segment to build a character? How long do you think it'll take us?
It
Because we
depends
may
on you
want to
guys.
stretch this into a session 2, into session 02.
0B.
Yeah, we might.
think we
it
should.
depends on how long it takes.
I feel like it's going to take
Open up.
more than an hour. So
Yeah, it can. I'm going to open up Murdoch sheet for the screen here so that we can follow along with him.
So
Just for anybody
character
who's viewing.
burner?
Yeah, character burner.
Okay.
So there you go. So on there, it's going to say character concept, recommended life paths, and stock. At the top, I want you to put like just a very short character concept. So for like Murdoch, he could be Jungle Boy seeking way out of apocalypse or something like that. Just something that keeps you kind of focused throughout the whole process. That's all that is. Or you could be like aspirant Drakrit, which is the person who pilots the mechs. As far as recommended life paths, let's talk about scale of power. In D&D, we have levels, and levels are numerical. They make a lot of sense. This is kind of like that levels thing. Recommended life paths also determines how old your character is. If we did 1 life path, your character would be children. If we did 2 life paths, you'd be like tweens. If you did 3, you're going to be like teens to possible young adults. 4 means that you're well into adulthood, but you're not very experienced. Think about it like being your early 20s and you kind of dropped out of college and you're just trying to figure things out, that sort of thing. And then 5 life paths is you are a person who's established. This is 5 life paths is generally like a good level for playing characters that are a thing inside the world. Like if you play a 5 path merchant, you are probably something like a magnet by them. Meaning that you're not just a single merchant who sells wood. You own multiple businesses that sell wood. I think for what we've set up, 5 life paths sounds like a good place for us to be. We could even go further than that and be even more well established in the world, but I don't think we need to. Because further also means your characters are much older. So if you guys want to run around as like 65-year-old crazy people with a bunch of resources, that's an option. But I made a 5 life path Viking character that took all like brutal, nonsensical like warrior paths, and the dude was a juggernaut. If you build your character super focused on something with 5 life paths, you are a fucking badass at it.
But that's all you're a badass at.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty much how that character.
If you're a
ended up.
badass, brutal Viking, I mean, honestly, you can just force people into doing what the fuck you want. Therefore, you're badass at everything.
Yeah, and I've also built a blacksmith using 4 life paths. He became an armorer by the time it was all done, which was actually pretty cool. I don't have that character inside this thing, but
That's
I have a
close to
question.
what I'm going with, Chris.
Do you gain more life paths as the game goes on?
no. Once your character is done, you don't gain any more life paths, but you can angle your character to get things from other life paths. So like your character, you said you don't want to start in a mech, you want to earn that during game. Is that right?
Either or, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I'm cool with both. It's kind of what you feel comfortable with. If you want to earn it in game, that means your character is probably going to pursue knighthood. So if you wanted, you could have your character take a couple of life paths that represent like being in the jungle, like for life path 1 and 2, and then for paths like 3 and 4, you could start traveling to become a knight.
Let us Let
So
us roll a D100, and high I have a mech, and low I don't.
okay,
There you go.
I am not on that screen. Give me a second. Okay, so you said high you don't.
No, high I did.
Oh, high you
But
did.
if you would
Okay, cool.
prefer that I don't, I'm cool with that too. Either way.
No, it's fine. I was just curious what you wanted to role play essentially.
Either didn't bother me.
Okay, cool. So for the mechs, I decided to make it easy. I originally was going to write like this life path that was all about being a mech pilot. But the way the mechs work is essentially they are enchanted armor and weapons, just to make it very easy on us. They are also like, what size do we want to go? I don't want them to be like gargantuan, nonsensical sizes, like the size of mountains, but I definitely want them like.
I'd say about 3 stories.
I was
Would
gonna say
I-
at least like 2 to 3 stories.
I actually, honestly, throughout this whole thing, the way you've described the mechs and this kind of medieval setting,
Mhm.
I feel like unless we're like literally unburying these things like remnants from the ground, and we're like, holy shit, this is a cool toy. Let's figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
If people are actually making them, then I feel like it makes more sense to for them to be kind of structured like the mechs from the Matrix, where they're probably 15, 20 feet tall, but
Yeah.
like people in them are exposed and they're very like rough controls. Like that's how I picture it.
I would actually disagree. I would say that they're closer to like 60 feet because they're gonna be fighting elves riding dragons. Like
Well, how big are the dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next question. Is how big are the
exactly.
dragons? Are they designed for
So-
one-on-one combat? Are they designed for a couple mechs to take on one dragon?
Hold
That's
on,
all
I
things
think-
you got to go through too.
I think the question we need to ask first is: are they true European or Asian style dragons, or are they the dragons that current pop culture says, like Skyrim and Game of Thrones? They're not actually dragons; they're wyverns.
I'm thinking they're more like wyverns. You guys will call them dragons because there's an interesting thing that happens when the elves turn. If they are bonded with a dragon, the dragon also turns. So dark elves have what you guys call wyverns, and orcs have what you guys call manticores. The orc version is as vile and terrible as what a manticore is. Like it definitely has spikes. It definitely shoots them. Manticores like are a thing that you guys know exists because it does exist in your area. But I don't think
If that's the case, do they grow as big as dragons?
I don't want as big as dragons because I was doing some research on different options of like realistically what battle on a dragon would be, and there's this really cool novel series where it's like Napoleonic Wars, and they're back on the back of a dragon, but the backs of the dragons are piloted like a ship. There's the person who's piloting, and then there are other people that are like throwing bombs off the side of the dragon. I kind of like that idea, just because you could then have like a huge dragon, and it makes a lot more sense than just a dude in a saddle with a lance. But my idea is that the elves are more like Mongolian horse riders. So I think a more compact, streamlined dragon would make more sense.
I think you could do both, to be completely honest. I think you can have. I think with this, you go almost Game of Thronesy with the style of dragon.
Okay.
What that means is like Danny's dragons grow very small, and if they're confined, they stay small. But if they're given enough space, they get bigger. For example,
It's a goldfish problem.
in Balerion the Black Dread, or the Dread, however you want to nickname him, he was so big he could open his mouth and a mammoth could walk right in, and he could fly away. Like there were the two opposites. Like Danny's dragons eat a sheep and they have to like take bites out of sheep. Or on the flip side, you got these dragons / wyverns that are so big, they fucking swallow mammoths and don't even realize it. And those dragons have the ships on them.
I'm okay with that. I also like one thing from Game of Thrones is that the dragons grow very quickly, and then they get like their size, and then it's just a thing. I think
Well, no, they continue to grow through their whole life.
Okay.
Like they don't stop growing.
So dragons essentially will eventually get to the point where they cannot consume enough food for them to be a thing anymore.
Well, basically what happens is their bodies just break down because they get so old and so huge. Like that's what
Okay.
happened to Balerion the Black Dread. He just got too big.
Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, you're probably not going to interact with anything like that, but I like the idea of it for the elves when they come around, because like eventually the elves will come around. I don't think it makes sense for me to do it as soon as originally I planned with this group, because you guys have other things to worry about, but the elves will come.
I think if that's the case, you may want to go to the 40, 50 foot range then, because that's a good, like, hey, these things have battled these massive dragons in the past. As a group, they can take them down. One-on-one, a dragon that is intelligent is going to go, that's probably not a smart idea.
Yeah, and the fact that they don't fly is still a disadvantage, but their height definitely helps them kind of balance that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
It may also make sense that the size of the mech is relevant to like the size of a dragon heart they take out of someone.
Yeah,
like most of them are like relatively in the small range, but like if you could get one of those giant dragon hearts, you could theoretically make a giant mech. But thus far, that's never happened.
I think
I like
That's
that concept.
actually that's my favorite concept so far.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's definitely a cool idea, that the size of the mech is limited by the heart that's used. But what I really like too is that because of what we're kind of establishing, like, have you guys have been around shipyards before? You live in Boston, so that's a stupid question. Shipyards, essentially, they lift the boat out and then they build these huge structures around them to construct the boat and repair it and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, imagine that inside the bigger cities, there are sections of the city that are basically dry docks for mechas to be built in. Like, they have big construction towers and stuff like that.
Chris,
yeah,
that actually leads
like
into the
that.
concept, because I'm trying to be a novice Drakrid Smith.
Okay.
I have a question now that kind of coincides with all this. Do the hearts continue to grow in that if you get a heart for a mecha and say it's a baby heart and you go, okay, the biggest mecha we can make with this is 10 foot.
I actually have a thing to add. I have a idea for that, Murdoch.
Well, can I finish what I'm saying?
Sorry.
But as time goes on, that 10-foot mecha can then you can disassemble that, take that heart, and now build a 20-foot mecha. You can take that apart, build a 40-foot mecha eventually, and that like at 40, 50 feet is where they naturally stop unless you kill something that's bigger.
So what I was thinking, Murdoch, was I was thinking that possibly they might still grow, but at a slower rate than they would, because we're artificially trying to keep them alive.
Yeah, I think that they definitely grow slower.
Well, yeah, for sure. But do they still grow? Do like we have spells in them that stop them from growing at a certain point so they don't explode because they're so big?
I would say that's probably a it's like a school.
Tom put his hand up a second ago. You had something for Tom?
No, sorry, never mind.
Okay.
So I was saying that they may be like a school of thought, like between different Smiths and all that shit.
So
believe one or the other.
I like the idea that you can harvest the heart. The heart limits the size. As far as growth goes, is that something you want to explore in the game? Is my question. Do you want to have like your character start with a smaller mech, and as the story progresses, maybe advance to like a full 40, 50 foot mech?
I think that the way it should work is because we're knowing that dragons right now are no longer around. As we know them, they're no longer around.
Yeah.
Does this mean that manticore hearts can be used, or they're too corrupted?
You can, but you will make a mech that is fueled by hatred. That may actually kill you. So people don't typically do it.
So that being the case, I would say that A, there probably is a shortage right now, and B, most mechs are probably at their height because there's no babies.
Yeah.
So like the idea, like Jeremy as his character could explore building smaller mechs when the dragons come back.
That's why I so as a person who wants the thing is, I like the idea of it growing.
The voyage that has taken place to the jungle, the jungles being a character that's from there, you know that there are actually like sacred nests that are protected by elves. You know that elves are a real thing. Dragons exist. that they're in the jungle and that there are sacred nests. Humans recently have struck one of those nests. That's the thing that changed the world as you guys start.
Okay.
So your character could have firsthand knowledge and knows for a fact that humans did it, but it's not like a huge, well-known fact yet. Gateway sent an expedition down to the jungles, attacked a nest, took a heart with them, and now the elves are pissed.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, but I think that all the mechs that we have now should be at that 40-foot range, basically, because we had to stop them from growing, otherwise they would get too big.
Here's the question. Did you bring a small heart? Because, like, the idea is that for them to attack a nest, it basically took one person in a suit plus a couple of, like, knights on lizard back to like, basically siege the nest.
I think that's up to Jeremy. Honestly, I think if we're doing this as a collaborative game and we're all trying to tell a story together, and Jeremy wants to be the aspiring crafter, I think that the idea here is for my character to have like sought Jeremy out. So Jeremy,
here's an idea. How about this? Your character comes up with a heart. You don't have a mech yet. You have the blooded trait, which means that you can have a mech. But it gives Jeremy's character a reason to build a mech in game.
Yeah.
And then eventually your character at some point, probably when we do the first trait vote, will have a mech at that point going into the next story arc.
Jeremy?
Yeah. I do like that. Because I feel like, especially
and the fight to like basically to get your heart, you probably came across an egg as it was hatching and just took advantage of the opportunity while the dragon's scales had not hardened yet and killed it while it was very.
So I just ripped that bitch out.
Yeah, because like doing a dragon hunt on your own would be complete suicide, even if it was a baby.
Okay. I mean, all this sounds fine to me.
So your mech, when you first build it, is probably only going to be like 15 feet.
Yeah,
so you would have probably one of the most, most newest technologically advanced mechs because of.
Well, let me put it this way: unless Jeremy does something different, it will turn out 15 feet. If Jeremy decides his character knows about how hearts work, which is for dwarves going to be like if you're going to be a dwarf.
Actually, I was
master.
Actually, I was trying to be a human who trained under a dwarf because you said the dwarf is dying out. So they're starting to pass. They're at the point, to me, that they're trying to pass on some of their knowledge to those who they feel like are worthy. And I somehow stupidly lucked into it.
So I think we should create a new skill as well. That is about smithing the dragon material. So I've said that Drakzan is the word for dragon blood. That's what the mechs are called. A Drak Rit is a pilot. So I'd like to keep that naming convention. It's probably something like Drak Metal, because essentially the way dwarves structure their crafting, you actually have to spend hundreds of years of crafting with one particular metal before you graduate to the next type of metal.
Yeah.
So I think
Can we call it Drakgom?
Okay, I was going to say it should be something like Drak Metal, Drak something. Is
go ahead.
The reason I go with that is because, as we know, and as the audience I'm sure knows, whoever watches this, is all great fantasy worlds / adventures include pop culture references to something else. I mean, that's just what it is. And this is an homage, obviously, to our DM, whose favorite Star Wars race is the Mandalorians. They have the Beskagam, which is the name for not only the armor, but the metal they use to craft it. So if we call this Drakagam or something along that lines, it's an homage to the Mandalorians. And it's like gives the special reference for this, that it's not metal. That it's totally something new, and it kind of can start giving us this warrior culture around these things.
Do we have names for the mechs and the people who ride them? Because another pop culture reference kind of is.
He already said them.
Oh, okay, I missed it. But Drakengard would be really freaking cool.
I feel like I thought about that. I feel like that's probably an order of riders. Like that would be a knightly order that is specifically around establishing their direct writ. I don't think there's enough mecha out there in the world right now for a knightly order that is specifically about the mechs, but I could see Murdoch's character being like, no, there needs to be. You guys don't understand the apocalypse that's coming.
Yeah.
Like, the elves are coming back. This is serious. And I could see Murdoch's character creating the Drakengard, or whatever we want to call it.
I'm totally cool with that. I like that concept.
Nate, you've been kind of quiet. What is your concept right now?
I'm gonna play
It's a
Rice Farmer.
Rice Farmer? Are you going to keep the blood, like, secret bloodline prince thing going?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh God! So wait.
It's
Hold on,
perfect.
hold on. It
Are
goes
we
even
going to be the
further than that.
Jacobites?
It goes even further. I'm gonna keep the secret like Prince bloodline thing, but I'm like the only person fucking ever, or some, maybe I don't even know actually. That knows or is aware of blood magic usage at the high levels of royalty and political
I
power.
like that because it gives you a reason to interact with it in the future.
Yeah. Also, I have decided that I like to isolate. So, because of this, I've taken up blood magic because I don't like trading with people. So instead, when my animals die, I just gut a pig and raise another pig, and now I have a skeleton pig or a skeleton ox or whatever who can like.
That would be death arts, not blood magic for that.
Sure. Yeah, death arts. Yeah, that's more what I was going for.
Also, I think Death Arts only works on things with souls.
Animals have souls.
I believe it does too.
Whoa!
What are you
Don't
talking about, man?
Hold on. I think this gets into the theology debate in
That's
Not
game.
all dogs go to heaven.
I know. I seriously think that's a theology
that,
debate in
that
game.
can be a theology discussion or a knowledge religion roll in game.
One thing I do want to say
fuck
is,
you, dogs have souls.
if we're gonna have
100%
magic be
for it.
rare, having the entire party be different kinds of magic is slightly ridiculous.
So the only thing that I have an issue with is if we establish death arts, we have to decide what death arts are considered okay by the populace and not okay by the populace.
I don't touch people.
If
I think that's horrendous.
we say that animals have souls and we can raise zombie pigs, is that okay with society or not okay with society?
I'd say Beast of Burden might be considered an okay thing because it really.
Hold on. I think it began. I think honestly, since we are a highly pious civilization, obviously we're a theocracy for the most part. We have to.
The next question is, does the soul stay with the corpse?
Well, the question first is, what are our beliefs to the dead?
Yeah, that's really what I'm saying. Is what?
Because
let's talk about what the church believes. Does the church believe that the soul stays with the body, or the soul separates, goes to heaven, and the body is just meat bag sitting around?
I mean, just like a mannequin.
Because if the body's just a meat bag sitting around, why is necromancy evil?
Yeah, I was gonna say
because the way they describe death arts in the book is you're pulling the soul from the afterlife to be trapped in their dead body, and you control it.
Yes, that is from the book what it is. We can change that because it's not super ingrained into it. If we want necromancy to be the vile, terrible thing that it is in the book, it is literally ripping someone from heaven, making them watch all the evil atrocities you make their body do, and they can do nothing to stop it.
Which, in that case, even if it's an animal, is terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that, to be honest. I like that you're just mannequining a pig.
I mean,
the other thing is we can keep death arts the way it is. Say it exists in the world and it's a terrible thing, and your magic happens to be like animating things. And so if it's a dead pig, you're just animating a dead pig. That's
but the problem is does the common man make that
the common
distinction?
man will not understand the difference.
Yeah, so that's
unless we establish that animals don't have souls.
And if we establish animals don't have souls, then I think
wouldn't be so bad.
Well, here's the problem: is at that point, do we believe that other races have souls?
Yes, that becomes the next question.
Which I feel like that we get into all that crap in game.
I think that other races and souls is a great in-game conversation.
I think that would already be established though, because if dark arts exist, someone would have tried to raise an elf or dwarf. That's if the dwarfs are dying out. That may have been something the dwarfs have already tried.
Yeah, I think the dwarves have tried.
Or maybe they don't go to the same afterlife, and we can't pull stuff from there.
I
The
think
real
the
problem-
dwarves
the real
have
problem
tried.
is
the dwarves, in my opinion, are kind of like this secretive race. Like they've probably tried to resurrect themselves.
So
Whenever humans try, they're probably like, no, I don't want to do it. But there's probably one dude who in the back of his barn is like, no, my best friend, the dwarf, died. I'm not letting him go. I'm going to try it.
yeah, so we should already know whether they have souls. So it can't
So
be an
here's a
in-game
question.
discussion.
Would that become public knowledge, or would the church hide it away along with its blood magic? Because I think the church would hide it away if they found out anything about it.
Yeah.
Yes, but we should already we
The
should
facts should be established.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
wouldn't be common knowledge. So
I like the idea that each, like what Brendan said, each person goes to their own heaven. So
yeah,
we are monotheistic, but not every culture is monotheistic, I assume.
I would think so. Like I would think the elves probably have some weird like dichotomy twin god nonsense going on, and then the dwarves have like their heaven is like endless toil inside the fiery forge of
their hell or their heaven is the fourth level of hell.
Yeah,
they have to carry a boulder uphill.
Yep.
Ooh, a piece of gold. Ooh, a piece of gold. Let me keep digging. Ooh, a piece of gold.
And it slowly stops having gold, but they keep digging because they're greedy.
That would be hell.
That's hell, man.
Yeah, I think their version of hell would definitely be like them greedily embracing whatever their biggest desire is, and it's just not there. Like they have to eternally seek for it. Like that.
I actually think, you know what? I actually like the idea of that dwarves have this whole religion over their greed, kind of like I said, like before the Ferengi. They have the Ferengi actually have to buy their next life.
I like that. Like that's what their hoard is about. Like everything that they hoard, it's to purchase their next life.
But see, here's the thing: is with the dwarves dying off, they can have this whole like spiritual crisis in game.
Yes.
That they don't have enough, and so no dwarfs are being born because no dwarfs are dying with enough money to come back.
Yeah,
and that gives them a really cool way to be greedy.
Yeah, I think the main dwarf, the one that's been helping the humans just establish themselves with these mechs, like he is by far the most rich individual person
think
in
about
the
it.
world.
Whoa. Now, I got to say one thing, Chris, along with these lines, right? You said the entire point of the dwarves teaching humans how to create mechas, right, is because they're trying to save the humans from some apocalypse. Yeah. Are we sure there's not some ploy, right, for this one dwarf to create a lot of money for his afterlife?
So it might be, but here's the other thing: dwarves don't just greed after money; like they can greed after things that are beautiful, which might be an elf who sings well, and they want to capture it, put it in a gilded cage, and keep it forever.
And that's their bribe to get into the next life.
I think if we go this route, the guy who's helping the humans are beautiful to him.
And I'm totally cool with that, but I think
if he saves the humans, he might save the dwarves.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's where they place value.
Weirdly altruistic. Like not in a good, like he's got altruistic goals, but like how he gets there is not altruistic. Like it's purely greed that he does what he does.
So I think we have a combination answer. I think our answer is that while yes, theoretically, those dark arts could work on other things than humans, and the church probably knows about it, I don't think that they go to the same afterlife, and so the common rabble doesn't know that works. And so only humans have a soul to most people.
Yeah, in which case that kind of brings us back to, do animals have souls in our world?
And I think that's something we can decide in game.
Well, it affects his character concept, because if I say animals don't have souls in game, he now built a character that can't do what he intended to. You can, however, change the rules of the world through play. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think I truly think that, again, only humans, as per the doctrine of the church, only humans have souls. but the church actually knows better.
Okay, I like it like that. So the church knows better, and apparently this prince by blood that nobody knows about also knows better.
But does he still raise animals?
If that's part of what your idea is, Nate.
I mean, it is, but I don't want to be like a bad guy.
Well, does
The thing is like you can't hide that things that are undead. Like they fall apart and decay. So like at first when they die and you use their body, they look pretty much like themselves, just a little pale. But then they slowly decay over time. So
Well, if
you
they're
could
going to be,
hide it by being like, shit, my cow died. Look around, nobody's here. Okay, my cow's back up. Yay, I can pull my plow for the rest of the day. But like 2 days later, you probably shouldn't be using that cow anymore.
the way that I would look at it, Nate, is your dog, for example, your dog lived for the reason of guarding your house, right? That was its reason for existing. It was happy in that existence. You are merely doing it a favor by allowing it to come back for a time to continue to guard your house, to spend a little more time with you. And in that rationale, it's not evil.
Yeah, I think the common man, so long as you didn't let them decay too much, would have no idea what you're doing.
And
but
even
the
if they
common
did,
man,
I don't think they care about the animals.
I was gonna say, I think the common man, if they saw like a skeleton cow on your farm, they would freak out, kill it, and be like, "Oh my god, are you safe? You had a skeleton cow attacking your fields." They
I was
wouldn't
like,
connect-
you killed Bessie.
No. The best thing is like, then you become known as the dude who just constantly has like all these skeletons keep on invading your land.
Yeah, like they
keep up the
wouldn't connect
superstition.
the two of you together, at least at first. Like you could screw up and accidentally tell somebody in game, like, no, that was Bessie. I brought her back. Fuck you. Like then it will change things and make it complicated. But I think to start, if somebody saw, like I said, like a decaying cow on your field, they'd kill it, burn it, and be like, "Oh, you should probably kill your other cows because that one had the plague."
So the idea was mostly for the sake of like workhorses or like work animals, work lizards. Ha.
Yep.
Was that to save me the trouble of having to feed more animals? I mean, when it dies, you skin it, gut it, clean the bones, and have like an animated bone doing work. Bones doing work for you.
I mean,
Yeah,
again,
that would definitely get attacked by villagers. Enough of that would cause a problem for you.
No, that's why I wanted to be alone. Because like,
I think the evility in that lies in his train of thought and the train of thought of the people surrounding necromancy. Is it evil? Like that's what it did in life, and that's what it's doing in death. It's not really the torturous evil deeds that a human would experience. All right, fine.
Also,
Yeah,
I mean, if you're doing the whole
someone could be warmed up to it, but like a person who's just walking down the road sees a skeleton lizard running around inside somebody's backyard is gonna go kill that skeleton lizard thing and be like, "Oh my god, I just saved your life. There was a fucking zombie in your yard." Like that's gonna be the knight that walks by his farm. That's how he's going to react to it.
if you want to do the whole like lost heir, like you're a prince and stuff like that, there's plenty of stuff you can do with that already. Like there's the social
I was
stuff
gonna
is
say,
a
why
huge
don't
part of this
you-
game.
Why don't you, instead of going with like skeleton lizards, why don't you do like regular sorcery and summon magical helpers essentially? Like
do that too.
like
I'm gonna take a look at it.
like you could do that and say like or if you wanted, you could keep the folk magic idea alive and be like, if I use baking soda at midnight and hurl it to the fields, it will help me capture like gophers, and you just have like these enchanted nature magic gophers that do things for you.
Enchanted magic gophers.
Like that
Eventually-
that while it accomplishes the same thing, people will not react as poorly.
Nate's building a Disney princess.
Yeah.
Yep, building a Dincy princess. So I actually kind of like that because now there's the split in the character between noble lineage and crazy voodoo magic.
Okay. So there is a
But I like that.
trait-
That's fun.
there is a trait called Prince of Blood. which means that you have been recognized and that you are in line for the throne. If you want that, pretty much the easiest way to get it is you stay in the noble life path. But that means your character probably isn't in the field. Flip side, you could start the game, not have the trait Prince of Blood, and basically play the game you normally want to. And if you decide as the game progresses, hey, I still want to pursue this whole Prince of Blood thing, you then start acting like a Prince of Blood. You look for somebody in the church to be like, yeah, he's the lost prince of this kingdom, and his father has been looking for him for years and all this stuff. Like, we could pursue that in game. It just depends on how you want to do it. If you want to do the rice farmer concept, I would suggest you do like Born Noble and then look immediately into like a city path and then a villager path, because I don't think you can go right to villager from noble.
All right.
So
I'm gonna take a look at that. Yeah, see what I can do with it. Because I like
so
that.
how you tell where you can go inside your life paths is it'll say like other groups of life paths to the right of the name.
Mm-hmm.
So like, let me pull up noble. Where is that one? Life paths man is 198.
I'm on like 170s.
170s. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in the gold edition.
Yeah,
actually.
no, I'm also in the gold edition. I read the wrong chapter number instead of the correct one.
Okay.
So let's see here.
Noble setting.
You've got the page. What's the page?
170 setting.
177. Okay. So for example, the noble life path actually will lead to any, so you could immediately go to villager afterward if you wanted to. Villager or city is probably where you're going to be if you want to be like a farmer type life. Villager is definitely going to get you that farmer lifestyle. If you look below that, there's bastard. Just over to the right, it says outcast, soldier, city, religious.
Mhm.
Those are what that life path can turn into. Like if you play a bastard, you could then become an outcast or a soldier, go to the city and become something there, or join religion.
So I'm actually looking at Arcane Devotee, which leads into Outcast, which I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Outcast probably leads me into...
Outcast is kind of like criminal life paths for the most part. Just to give you a heads up, it's like criminal, slaves, and general like
Urchin,
untouchables in society.
Apostate, blackmailer, kidnapper, pillager. Jesus.
And you can take the same life path twice in a row, but it does change how it works if you wanted to stay longer in a life path.
Okay.
Basically, you will get a bunch of you get the same amount of skills, the same amount of trait points, but for the first time you do it, but each time that you take a life path in a row, you get less out of it.
There's a life path called Rat Catcher, which the only thing it leads into is rats.
Mm-hmm. You can actually take one of the rat lifestyle paths after that. So so that kind of gives you an idea of where to start. Brendan, are you still considering playing like a character with faith?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
I'm looking at the life paths now. It looks like the only way to really get faithful is to do something where like you studied for years, like as an acolyte.
Yeah, I was going to say what I would do for you is look for a life path that has faithful as one of its traits, and then work backwards. You have up to 5 life paths to do it, which means you should be able to. One of my favorites is actually Exorcist, which is kind of fun. But I think that you can become a priest in the city and get faithful, if I remember right. I intended to go through and actually write down what all life paths do faithful, because faithful is actually kind of a hard trait to find sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you check in the religious, there's a couple inside there, and then look in like city. There's one that you could, I think the court priest has it as well, but if you were a court priest, you may want to take a life path after court priest to show how you got to the city, because Basically, your life paths once we start the game, that is what you were doing up to the day the game started, essentially.
It's my original concept was to do an abbot, so like a monk, but all the monk stuff has no faithful stuff.
Okay, let's I do like the idea of being an abbot. That's actually really cool. The other thing that you can do is as you take faith costs 5 trait points. As you build your character, you will see how many trait points you have left over at the end, and then you can use those leftover ones to do anything you want. So if you look at my character that I built, the sergeant there, he had 3 life points left, or trait points left at the end. So I bought him Dreamer. Dreamer's not on his list. Basically, he has dreams of the future. So in addition to Crazy Jungle Boy, there's also this one sergeant out of all of them that believes Jungle Boy is correct and knows that things are happening in the future and that the world is doomed. So that is something I bought to flesh out that character. Typically, you'll end with anywhere from like 2 to 5, so you might get faith by doing it. I can do the quick math and tell you real quick if you have an idea of what life paths you want. Abbott being one of them, that's pretty cool. I like that. Well, let's see where that is, and then we can work.
And my idea with Abbott was it has vintner stuff tied to it. I thought it would be pretty easy to make it brewing instead.
Yeah, we could do that. That's an easy switch.
Yeah, they're
Where's
both
the Abbott life path page.
It's religious. Let me find it again. It's 186.
186. Okay. Visitor, theologian. Okay, Abbott. Let's see. To get there, you need to be. Oh, you could be a vintner actually to get there. So is that what you were thinking?
A brewer is in the same life path, I think, which is what I was hoping for. Yeah.
So
I just found it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say vintner's on there, which is more wine, but you were thinking more brewery, like a brewer.
Since you mentioned wheat, and I want him to be from sort of like a Germanic region, so he's sort of bringing that with him.
Yeah. Let's see. Where's vintner? I just want to see what it takes to become a vintner and see if they're comparable.
It might be noble, actually.
Oh, that would be unfortunate.
I think it's in the city, actually.
Or yeah, no, city dweller makes more sense.
Because I believe the brewer is also.
I saw it.
Let's see. Noble setting. Life bishop magnate.
Sadly, there's no searching in this document.
It's
Yeah,
because it was not created with.
I understand.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It's actually easier with the book. If we get playing this and you guys decide to get the book, I would just go to the Burning Wheel headquarters to get yours, their website. There are people that sell it cheaper, but they sell like older publications that aren't as up to date stuff.
No.
Nope, I found Vintner. It is in.
Back in a second.
Villager.
Look at the restrictions on Vintner.
Restrictions may not be the character's second life path.
Okay. I'm still trying to find Brewer.
Brewer
also in Villager.
168.
It's in the same slot that's on the previous page. I think it's the third one down.
168.
There is no requirements for Brewer.
Okay, here's Vintner. May not be this character's second life path. That's pretty easy. And then Brewer is no requirements, you said? Yep.
No requirements.
There's one thing I saw that you might like, Brendan. The what is it? Itinerant priest. Okay, right.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So
Page
I don't
164.
mind switching out the requirement for Abbott with Brewer. I think that that's fine. The only thing is a vintner leads to a religious path, if I remember right. Let me look. No, it does not. So the thing that you're going to have to be cautious of, you know that you want to be an abbot and you want to be a brewer at some point. You got to figure out how to go from the city to, or not the city. What is this? This is the village.
What
isn't it?
page was Vintner on?
Vintner is on page 169.
Hold on.
I'm trying to find one, and I keep on finding your shit, man. Can't find the thing I'm looking for.
Ooh, I think we are in the village. Yeah, we are. Okay. So a brewer is a villager. Let me write that down real quick.
Chris, would Outcast be an acceptable setting to also take? Because we said we're exiled.
Yeah, that's fine. You can take that setting.
I say that because there's a life path in the Codex I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to find fucking rogue wizard because it's a requirement.
It's an outcast.
I think that's an outcast if I remember right.
It is. I was looking at it, yeah.
And it might be in gold if I remember right.
It's near the bottom of outcast. It's like the fourth from the bottom. On 196.
That's why I just didn't go all the way down.
You want to be an abbot.
Where's your the extra life paths? I see the extra life paths in the Codex, but it's just like wizard burner.
Yeah, that's
like
yeah, you got to go to the humans section of gold, and then it's pretty much the first area.
I'm just Chris. I'm trying from the Codex. I'm trying to get Demented Inventor.
Okay.
Pretty simple, actually.
So he needs either city, peasant, noble. I have a good way for you to go, actually, and it gives you something in common with the NPC that I wrote. Brendan.
Okay.
So the village has Pilgrim in it. Pilgrim will lead you to religion. Once you're in religion, you can become an abbot. But what you can do is I would do born in village, brewer, pilgrim. That's all in the village lifestyle or life path. Then cross over to religion. Look for anything that will get you faithful right away that you meet requirements for. In fact, actually, before we leave village, let's look at village to see if anything in village has it. Hold on, before we leave village, I'm going to go through village real quick because your character might be easier than I'm trying to make him out to be.
There is the village priest that has faithful. I have to be an acolyte before that.
You have to be an acolyte before.
A lot of them you have to. A lot of the ones that have faithful, you have to have an acolyte.
What does village priest lead to? Does it lead to religion?
I have to find it again.
Village priest, it leads to any except noble court. Yeah. Okay. So to do that, you have to be an acolyte. I think to be an acolyte, you have to be a neophyte or something like that first.
No requirements. It's 2 above village
cool.
priest.
So this is what you can do. Born village, brewer, acolyte, village priest, abbot.
You're Friar Tuck.
And that actually,
he's trying to build.
It's not a weird set of life paths. It keeps you kind of in line with stuff. Like you stayed mostly within the village, and then when you became the abbot, it's like, okay, you've entered like the religious society now. Like you're not just a guy who really digs God and was holding ceremonies anymore.
Yeah, my original idea was to have sort of the warrior veteran, but that's really not possible with the way life paths work. So I guess like he could have just experienced war firsthand as a villager, and that's what made him enter the cloth.
Yeah, like maybe you started as a brewer, and during your time brewing, you actually just followed around a band of mercenaries, because there's definitely mercenaries in the world, and you experienced like a catastrophe. Like they signed up to fight for one king in the main continent. You're like, okay, I'm going to follow you guys around and brew your beers. It'll be great. And like your first time out in war, you found Jesus because it was horrifying and terrible.
Tamati. He found Tamati.
Tamati. Okay, so we've got your life paths worked out. How this is going to work is let me pull up the page here.
There's a life path for a crazy old sailor.
I'm actually going to open up Brendan's because we've got Brendan's
There's a life path
mostly
for
worked out.
country wife. Okay.
I know.
Yeah, the wife life paths are actually really funny.
But there's no life path for jungle fucker.
Yeah.
Whoa. I'll find you one.
You could probably do something like the outcast born slave if you wanted to. That would make sense. Or maybe you're just from a village that's down there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, was just a village that's down there. I was thinking of head of household for village, because that gives you actually a lot of worthwhile and make sensey traits for being all alone.
Murdoch, I found the life path for you.
What's that?
Damaged.
What does that one do?
It gives you inconspicuous and quack-wise.
Nice.
And your traits are sick, phobia, lunatic, linguist, and possessed.
So I'm opening up Jeremy's.
No
and
requirements.
Hey guys, I'm going to show you Jeremy's character sheet real quick. So this will pop up for you. Okay. I'm going to fill in Brendan's first one here.
Brendan just showed up for me.
Yeah, I meant to say Brendan's sheet. Since we've got Brendan worked out, I'm going to show you how to enter one. Basically, you're going to do village born for his case. And then it's going to say time. If you look on the sheet, inside the book, the second column is time. It took him 10 years to be basically born and raised in the village before he was allowed to get a job. So his first job was at 10. Lead is if you decide to go to a different life path. You can leave that blank until you make your decisions. I know that he's going to the village, so he has no lead. He gained 4 resources, which is that third column on that entry. And then he gained no stat points. If you get to a stat entry that says 1M and 1P, that means you get 1 in each. If it says 1P or 1M/1P, that means one or the other. So because he got nothing there, let's take a look here. Under skills, he's got 3 general skill points. These go under the category that say general. That is specific to the born life path. You don't get that again in any other life path. And then he also gets 2 trait points, which is really handy for later on. Oops, 2. From there, he's going to go brewer, which is a little bit further down. Let me find it real quick. Here we go, brewer. Okay. He spent 8 years being a brewer, learning the arts of beer. He got 15 resources from doing so. He got no stat bumps. And he got 4 skill points. So here's the important part. When you get skills, you have to write down what those skills are, because basically you're building a skill list for your character. So he got brewer. And write them down the way that they came. Don't alphabetize them or anything. This one is required. Whatever your first skill is, it's always required, so check that required box.
What happens if skills overlap between life paths, like nothing special, you just have less skills overall?
It depends. So if, like, let's say Miller is your second skill here, let's say another life path has Miller as its main thing, Miller would become required. It wouldn't add a second Miller entry or anything like that. However, if let's say you add another life path that had brewer as its required skill, you would then take the second one on the list. So if you had a previous life path that had brewer required, and then you took brewer, the life path, and you got brewer again, you would take Miller required as well. Not grain wise, you need brew wise.
So when a life path has, like, points, is that how many points of one of the list of things it has you can put into it?
No, I just want you to put down how many skill points up here at the top, where it's next to your life path. We'll fill in the amount of skills you want to advance things after we filled in all your life paths.
Yeah, Jeremy, where was Itinerant Priest? You mentioned that.
That was early on. Hold on.
Itinerant priest, if I
It's
remember right, is an outcast. You don't want to go that direction.
No, it's a villager.
Okay.
It's villager, outcast, city, and religious. Page 164.
164. Let me see.
The only thing it requires is an acolyte.
Oh, it's peasant.
No, it's under the peasant setting. But it counts for villager. It can go lead to villager, outcast, city, or religious.
Yeah, you can do
Villager can go to
instead of
peasant. So
priest.
that fits my concept a little more, since you would need to become a traveler in order
That's what
to
I'm saying.
reach.
That one works
So you
pretty
think
well for you.
itinerant priest would be better?
Yep, still gets faithful.
It gets
So-
faithful. It gets a lot of the other things you're looking for. And
So I'll get brewer, acolyte in village, itinerant priest in peasant, because he's just sort of going off on the road, so he's poor. And then he finds an old broken down abbey in a little monastic order in the Holy Land, and becomes the abbot and makes them brewer monks.
That was peasant for that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you went over to religion after that, or abbot.
I'm going to be a little old. Abbot's 10 years by itself. So it starts at 10.
So that's what your life paths would look like. I haven't filled in all the blanks up here at the top, Brendan.
I
You
can take care of
fill
that.
those in. But I put in your leads there just so you know when it happens. The big thing is when you put in your life paths, do put in what they're from, because there is a way that you guys can basically create NPCs in the game. You can roll and say, "Oh, I know Jim Bob the butcher. Let me roll him up because I need a butcher right now."
fucking good old
But
Jim.
you can only get a butcher.
Butcher.
I was gonna say you can only get Jim Bob the butcher if you share a life path with him. Jim Bob the butcher has stayed in the village his entire life, so Brendan definitely could pull him up since Brendan has villager life paths.
You can be a harem slave.
Which is funny because that means nobles can't just be like, I need a butcher, bring me a butcher. They actually have to work in game to find a butcher and bring him to bring him through the game forward. He can't just magically conjure a butcher.
No, but they can magically use their money to force
I
other
was gonna
people.
say they can conjure someone to go get them a butcher.
Exactly. So they can totally summon a butcher. Just a good old classic way.
Or you can be a necromancer and you
Raise
can-
a butcher from the
they
dead.
have there's two types of necromancy. You can either raise the dead and they lose all their skills, or you can turn a living person into an
Yes.
undead person and they keep
You
their
can,
skills.
you can make it revenant.
Revenant butcher.
Hey man, you don't think that's funny? Then fuck
He
you.
won't mind the smell.
Yeah.
So Brendan, you can go ahead and fill in the rest.
Yeah, I'm working on it. You can go on to the other guys. I'm happy with this.
Revenant butcher.
So Jeremy, I'm going to pull yours up here. So you're looking at a novice Drakrit Smith.
Something like that, yeah.
So I think all we need, because you're basically what's going to happen is your general skills. You can once you get your general skill points, you can use them for anything you want. I think what you should do is look for a life path that gives you a decent amount of general skill points, and basically you're going to open up the skill Drakgom.
Yeah. The thing I definitely am trying to get to, the only life path I'm trying to get to is just I'm trying to figure out the way I want to get to it is in the codex,
Okay.
page 404.
Codex 404.
Although I think it says 404 in the page number, but it's 405 in the
Okay.
PDF page number. Demented Inventor.
Okay. So that is an outcast.
There's three ways to lead into it. I'm just trying to figure out the way I want to lead into it.
What do you want to do before you become a demented inventor? Do you want to? Okay, so it does have requirements. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Um,
So my original goal is, of course, I mean, like I said, I'm just trying to be. The way I see it is, I was trying to be just a normal smith, but by some luck, I was able to start training under a dwarf to learn how to create some Drakrit and all
Okay.
that.
So let me see here. Gifted child and app
But-
people life paths are designed to open more options. Gifted child can replace the born, and apt pupil can be taken as an option to noble, religious, soldier, and outcast subsettings.
So minimum, I need 2 or 3 different life paths just to one or two life paths just to get to Demented Inventor.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would have a born path, apt pupil, and then demented inventor would be kind of the straight shot to it.
Well, there's no Wizard Apprentice can do it. Wizard Apprentice has no requirement.
You still have a born life path, so it'd be born, wizard apprentice, demented inventor.
True. At that point, I would probably go Gifted Child and app pupil at the same time.
So the other thing that you could do, let's take a look at it says you can come from which ones? Let's see. You can
Outcast
come
leads are
from
peasant
noble
and villager.
court, religion, soldier, and outcast. Let's look at noble court and outcast. They're interesting life paths. They include like a bunch of weird stuff.
Yeah.
So
And-
let me look at those lists real quick from gold and see if there's anything inside here, because I think maybe another like crafting type thing would be good
That's
for you in there.
what I was trying to do. I was trying to get some of the crafting shit. But most of the
So you can
crafting
definitely
things
go
look
over.
like they're
What's the
under
leads from Demented Inventor? Does it take you like back to the city? Because city is where most of the
Demented Inventor leads are peasant and villager,
But no.
which is annoying because I'm pretty sure City Dweller has a lot of the
yeah, city has a lot of the crafting stuff. City
Tom, what
also
are you
has, like,
smoking?
merchant stuff in it.
What?
What are you smoking?
Nothing? Was I muttering?
Yes.
No, sorry.
Actually, I think villager might have the crafting stuff, and city has merchant stuff. That might be the difference.
does it? Maybe I missed.
That's what it
the,
seems like because I'm looking through them like piece
I
by
must.
piece
I must.
now.
I must have missed the cutoff.
So going to villager isn't necessarily a bad thing. So here's a good one for you. It's from soldier, which you can come from soldier.
Yes, I can.
Apprentice. Apprentice gives you mending, write, read, hauling, driving, and ditch digging as your skills. It will give you a physical trait. It does give you, it's 4 years. It does give you some resources, and you will gain the trait exhausted. Your character is like always exhausted. And you could also choose to take the trait back-breaking labor, which means you're just good at back-breaking labor. I've taken apprentice as kind of like a weird fill-in, and it's kind of like a general one. It's pretty cool. I'm surprised you can't come from the city. That's actually a little frustrating.
There's also Apprentice Artisan.
Which one is apprentice artisan under?
Hold on, maybe I get it. City Dweller. Sorry.
It is city dweller.
Hmm.
I think we could probably make a change for you and do like born city, artisan apprentice, and then go
Because
over to
Apprentice Artisan is artisan wise, mason, any smith skill, carpentry, write, read, and jargon.
yeah. Let me look through the outcast and stuff before we say 100%. But I think for your concept, we can bend the rules a little bit there.
There's also, I mean, well, I also was considering eventually going journeyman if I could too, but that requires apprentice. A lot of these crafting need journeyman for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying to go a good mix of stuff. I was trying to figure out for a while how
You could be a cripple.
what?
Yeah.
Why
it's,
wouldn't
it's in the
you?
outcast life path. You can be a cripple.
Hold on. What? Why is that? Why? You know what? Harem slave is a thing, so why can't cripple be a thing?
Yep. Harem slave is actually a badass thing if you want to be a warrior.
Oh my god! I looked at it. I was like, hold on.
It has a trait called numb, which allows you to ignore superficial wounds. So when you go into combat, somebody cuts you with the sword, you could be like, "No, fuck you."
Also, necromancer wise.
Yep.
No, disgusting necromancer wise. Sorry. And creepy.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything that makes sense. I think it's fine if we said, oh well, there's Tinkerer. Let me see. Oh no, that's Thinker, not Tinkerer. Okay, I
It is a
misread.
tinkerer. I know that.
I think it's a dwarven thing.
No,
I think it's
I've seen
fine
it.
in
I've
this
seen
case
it
to have you
under
come
the
from a
human
village
lifespan.
or city. I think that makes sense. Like even if you did like village and you actually had like a trade before you got picked up for Demented Inventor.
Yeah. Just some of the way some of this works is just weird.
Let me look at Demented Inventor to see if there's anything that's going to immediately be a problem that I should draw your attention to.
Go ahead. I don't think there is personally, unless you probably mad invention
There is
wise.
the trait Demented.
Yes.
That will be a problem for your character. If you're okay with that, that's fine. I'm just letting you know that
What's the
you
fun
will be
without some
playing a
kind of
character
problem?
that is a little demented.
What's the fun without a problem? Murdoch's character is gonna be a crazy guy from who believes he's from the forest below.
I am
can't
from the forest below.
Why can't I be demented? Who also probably believes him because I don't know because why not?
I mean, that
Which would-
could be what it is that your character is not really demented, just society views him as being demented because you believe the same shit that this weird jungle dude, the dwarves, and this one guy from Gateway believes in.
Also, think about it this way: it would give me the reason for why I'm exiled because I believe this dude, and that's why I'm trying to create him the Drakrit he wants.
So Burning Wheel is a game where language matters.
Yeah.
So anytime you have a trait like that, let's look it up and make sure we understand what the word is and that we're okay with it. Demented's fairly easy for us to understand and appreciate, but I'm just going to do it anyways. So Demented is, by definition, driven to behave irrationally due to anger, distress, or excitement. So your character could be suffering from dementia, but or where you kind of forget things, or you could be this form of demented, which is, if I give you a situation where you're angry, distressed, or excited, or just one of those categories, your character behaves irrationally.
I can live with that.
Okay. It's up to you to define like when you do that sort of thing. Like if anger is your trigger, you should probably write that down somewhere on your sheet just so you remember that when your character gets angry, he starts getting crazy.
I'm not going to be that ridiculous. I was going to go with just plain excited.
Okay.
Maybe even a bit obsessed when it comes to like specifically about building something like that.
Okay. So here we go. Yeah, I was going to say I think it's fine if we did something like I think villager can lead to apt pupil. I think that's completely reasonable. I think city could as well.
I mean, gifted child can specifically act as a born setting for peasant village, city, sea, or servitude.
Gifted child can definitely go into those, but the things that you're looking at are leads as well.
Yeah. Which I think is weird that it can't count
outcast, court, religious, and then you'd have to work your way back into outcast, which is where Demented Inventor is.
Well, gifted child is outcast.
Yep.
Apt pupil is outcast. And demented pupil is outcast.
Oh, you want to go gifted child, apt pupil, Demented Inventor?
I was thinking that, but I was thinking that, and then having you said about 4 or 5 traits is. So I was going to consider taking like apprentice and maybe journeyman for that, and then work in game work my way towards stuff.
Well, those are 3 life paths. You still have 2 other life paths.
Yeah.
How it
No.
works is if you get a trait in your life path, it only costs you 1 point instead of its original cost.
Yeah.
Which may
So
be
no,
worth
so
more.
the way I'm looking at it is this, right? Possibly taking Gifted Child, App People, and then going into Demented Venture. And
Okay.
Demented Venture leave Peasant and Villager.
Right. So going into
From
Villager, you're
Villager,
probably
I can take Apprentice and Journeyman, actually, now that I look at it.
Yep. So
I
that
can
that's
just go
probably how
straight.
you're built.
I can go straight into that.
Oh,
That actually should work out properly.
I just realized that I'm still showing the Google page where I looked up Demented for a point.
It happens. Yeah, I mean,
That's
and
okay.
then
With the way that Google has changed how the broadcast works, my camera is actually cut off by your guys' feeds. So everybody only sees the top of my head right now
let's see to find.
because I'm sharing the
where-
screen.
It's okay. We love the top of your head.
We see the Refine Villager.
Okay.
Pretty sure Villager has it.
So Jeremy, you can begin
Yeah.
filling yours out.
So yeah, and Journeyman and Apprentice will give me a bit of merchant like stuff.
Yeah. Murdoch, you're next on my list here. So you got
Yay.
Jungle-born Survivor. You want to become a Drakrit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put it down here in your traits section.
Yep.
You have a trait called Blooded. That
Okay.
means you've gotten the heart. Its cost is 0 because it's going to be a story thing that I'm going to give you just to start with.
Okay.
So I've already filled that in. Basically, you can put anything you want in your life paths because you became blooded in a very non-traditional way. Basically, you killed a dragon on your own. You've earned the right to use that heart for something. So if you wanted to go village born, you mentioned village leader as well, or head of
No.
house? Is that what it is?
Had a house, but I can't find it again.
Okay, let me find it here.
I think head of household is in village.
I think it is as well.
Sure, I thought it was, but I was looking it up on my phone and I couldn't find it again.
Yeah, I'm a little bit regretting the fact that I accidentally left my book in the car right now. Let's see. Head of house is on page 163. It takes 15 years. I'll go ahead and start putting in head of house here for you to make it easy. Oh, it can't be your second life path, so it'd have to be your third.
Don't worry about it. Because I already know what I'm going to do for my second.
Okay.
So village born, I feel, will take care of the nitty gritty being jungly stuff.
Mhm.
Then I want to go into.
Oh, head of household is a peasant lifestyle, so
Yeah.
you'll have to go from village to peasant unless you want to be born peasant.
No, I'm doing village.
It's really easy to find your way to peasant.
Yeah, I mean that's an easy transition. So
Well, no, because I want to do foot soldier as a thing because I do want to have the religiousness in there as well.
okay.
Just because I want to make sure that I can get along with Brendan's character well. And I like the idea of nature magics, but I don't want to deal with the corruption. So that's
Yeah.
so
The foot soldier is from the villager, is that correct?
no, it's from the
Or is it soldier?
soldier setting.
Okay. And
The reason I
soldier-
went with that is because I thought that being Drake pilot, the mech
Yeah.
pilot,
Jacket.
Drakrit pilot would be those would seem things that I would need the soldiering, the weapons, the training.
that's definitely going to help you out with that.
But I also like the foraging and fire building.
Yep.
So there's that. From there, I don't really know what I want to take. I thought about going into night simply to
Knight will get you the best set of skills to be like a pilot because it's going to give you a bunch of martial stuff.
So I thought about that. If I do that, though,
The alternative is you could keep going down the soldier life path because you're not restricted. Normally, the restriction that I came up with was the only knights from this setting really get a chance at blooded. So unless you became a knight or you were a knight and you had militant order, you weren't
There
going
is
to be.
another knight in the religious section.
Yeah, that's militant order. It's not actually a knight. You don't gain a title. Like my NPC Sergeant Alistair, he's a sergeant. He's not Sir Alistair. He's part of the militant order, but he has not been knighted.
So I thought about doing militant order, but I do have a question for Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you run a rundown abbot, right? A rundown abbey, basically.
Well, let's run down now. I've been there for over 10 years.
Okay.
I built it back up.
Yeah.
So you're on the pilgrim path. You'd need a guard, right?
Yes.
And I don't like the city because it's too close for me. It's too closed. I get a little claustrophobic in cities, I'd think. So I was thinking maybe I kind of live at the Abbey. I'm the guard at the Abbey.
Sounds good to me.
And that way it gives our characters and Jeremy's character a way to kind of all mesh better together.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking Nate wanted to do a farmer too. If you farm wheat, we have enough relationship right off the bat.
I was gonna say
like the rice farmer is a thing in like an L5R setting. For realistically, I'd be a grain farmer.
Yeah.
So the way that I thought about doing it would be going foot soldier into squire into knight.
Yeah. I like that too because it gives you a chance later on if you choose to. You could join one of the orders. Like I feel like your character, while being a knight, you do have the title and stuff like that, but you're probably not part of like a fraternal order or even like a militant.
I feel that Brendan, as an abbot, knighted me. Like he saw through my deeds and my hey, he truly believes that this is happening.
So here's a question then. I think what Murdoch is posing is his character might actually have a sixth life path called Militant Order.
I only have 4 right now, actually.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Are you including your born life path?
Village born, foot soldier, squire, knight, and I'm thinking of Militant Order.
Yeah, you could definitely do that.
Okay.
I forgot you don't need page if you take a soldier life path.
Well, foot soldier worked well for the village. Like I was, when I come up, I was a village guard, which is how I know about the humans hitting the dragon nest because they did it near my village, and I went to go investigate with my spear, found out what happened, and went, "Ooh, here's a dragon thing. I'm gonna take this heart because that's a cool trophy."
Yeah, like the way Murdoch's building is kind of the classic village-born knight. If he wanted to be a noble, it'd be noble-born squire,
page squire.
Sorry, page squire knight. So I think
he actually doesn't have to take knight. Like I'm reading military order. It says requires knight of a holy military order requires squire, knight, or any life path from the professional soldier setting.
Which is where Sergeant Alistair comes in. Sergeant Alistair is not a knight. To be a knight, you have to take the knight path. Like if you want to be considered Sir Blank, you have to be a knight.
Okay. Yeah, no, the reason that I wanted Sir was because and this is something that you would know. I want the mech, and most mech pilots that, as Chris has explained to me, are knights.
Yes, they are. You would not have to because of the way your background is, but your character coming up into this world sees that the things are stacked against him. Basically what you're saying is your character came up, saw that this is the way things work, and is like, no, well, if this is how it works, then this is how I have to do it.
Yep.
And you've embraced it. I think that's fine.
He's a survivor. That's why I did it. He's a survivor. He's chameleon-like in that he's like, okay, here's this monastery, this monk that truly believes in this God can save us, and he's convinced me that this God can save us, and that as an instrument of this God, I am going to work hard, become a Draco pilot, and really, embrace this knight title. And I'm really working on creating this militant order that's based out of this abbey.
Yeah.
Headed by Brendan as the religious person,
Ooh,
like
that
our
would-
religion's guy there.
That's a good source of conflict for us too, because obviously I've taken a liking to you, but also I am very my character is going to be anti-war, so he's going to try to measure you, and it'll be a good dynamic.
Yeah, and I think
And-
that like you see the necessity of, okay, we're in Abbey, we're on this road, orcs are nearby. It's probably a good idea to have a guard or two.
Yeah, one of my goals, is that what they are? I'm
Yeah,
already thinking is going to be, I don't want war in the Holy Land.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a belief. Like the other thing that I like is Sergeant Alistair. I put him together as like, this is the guy that exists in the world. I'm just going to show you what a complete character looks like. I now can use him because he makes a lot of sense, because we've got some religious stuff going on. He's a pilgrim that became a knight. Well, actually, he's trying to become a knight. And then your character is a person that came up from nowhere and became a knight. So you and him have a lot of similarities. He has a direct tie with the way that Brennan's character is going. So that's probably going to be a real NPC that exists in the world now, which is cool because it saves me time from making that character later on.
I just thought it was a cool way to bring, because a lot of times when we build characters, we don't build like thinking of each other a lot. We build like, oh, this is a cool concept. And this time I really wanted to be like, okay, let me integrate people into my concept as much as possible. So that way I'm not betraying my concept, but also including them in my story.
Another really good way to do that is when we go to write beliefs, which you guys will do on your own afterward. And then I'll kind of workshop those with you. Is actually, we'll probably do that as like our
I have a
part
question
two.
though.
Yeah.
Village-born leads say peasant, servitude, sea, religious. That means I can't take foot soldier, correct?
Correct. You may want to
Not
look
from
at
there.
city-born, because I think city will take you to soldier.
Yeah, but that doesn't really work with what I wanted to do.
What it could be is like your interpretation of what a city is down in the jungle. Like maybe a city in the jungle world means like a tree colony that you guys have all built these shelters inside like this big vast network of trees. Like it still feels like a village, but there's just enough people that it qualifies as like a
How
city.
old were you when you came from there? Because maybe you were young when you were done with your initial life path, but when you came to this new country, you wound up in a city.
Actually, city-born also does not. It's servitude, court, noble, outcast.
Really? I guess Noble's the only one that can do whatever the fuck he wants. What does
I
Village
might-
say?
I might have to take.
Village-born can.
Village can?
Well, I know.
No,
some
I
of
just
the-
looked at village-born. I can't. Peasant, servitude, sea, religious.
So here's a crazy idea. I believe outcast slave-born does lead to soldier.
What
But
the
he wasn't a
outcast-
slave.
Outcast with shit really do. Like, it's the weirdest shit, man.
Okay. I don't think that's a game-breaking thing to say that you came from a village and came up, because essentially what we have is this separation of who you were before and who you are now that you've entered our world. And to me, like, yeah, you were born in the jungle, but you entered our world and you're like, well, how do I become how do I get a mecha? They're like, be a soldier. And you're like, okay, give me a spear.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. So I think that we can justify that, regardless of the fact that it's not a lead that normally works.
Okay.
I think it probably took you a little more time to do it, though. So maybe instead of lead 1, it's lead 2, because technically you can take anywhere from 1 to 5 years on your lead.
Okay. Is this going to measure how old I am, by the way?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So
At
are
the
we
end,
going?
it adds it up, and then your stats are determined by your age. So once you guys all put in your life paths and stuff at the top, remember, as you enter a life path, go to the skills section and put your skills in it in the order that they were.
So
The
I
first
can't.
skill on the list is required. It's going to save you a lot of time if you do that all at once instead of doubling back.
Chris, so I keep on meaning to ask, like, so how does like the lead, like, what do you mean by like how does the lead work itself? Because I keep
So
on,
if
like,
you change your setting, so if you leave villager and you become a soldier, that's when lead happens.
all right,
It's basically
So-
the time you spent trying to make the transition to go from one career to another.
so since I actually switched from mine to this, that would be one lead, right?
Let
I
me
spent.
look
I went
at it.
from outcast to village.
So gifted pupil is from what path?
I believe I'm considering that as village.
You're considering a village?
No, I mean, wouldn't really matter because in the I might as well keep it.
It does in the end. I just want to know what you consider it as out of
I'm
those
probably going to
options.
consider it as outcast because I'm
Outcast.
leading back into village anyways, unless that affects it.
Okay, so here's the difference between village and outcast. Outcast means that you probably grew up around a bunch of thieves and beggars and lepers and things like that. If you grew up in a village, you grew up in a regular village.
Yeah.
Does
But the
that
problem
make a
is
difference?
apt pupil and demented eventer are outcast.
Yeah, I'm just saying, do you want to be born in that outcast society, or do you want to have been born in regular society and then become outcast?
Regular society, I guess.
Okay, so village, that's what we'll say.
Yeah.
All right, village. If I can type.
And then going into apt pupil would be 1.
No, because you're staying in the village.
No, demented eventer would be the 1 because that's definitely
And
the
then
outcast.
you go to outcast. So at let me erase demented eventers thing. When you transition from village to outcast, the village receives 1 lead.
All right.
And then what is apprentice? That's the
Village.
city?
No, village.
Village?
And journeyman village. Because I'm not going for because I could go from outcast to apprentice village and then a journeyman soldier, but I have no reason because I don't want. I want the journeyman village.
Okay, so the thing from going from demented venter and the outcast back to society, it means basically you spent a year trying to convince people to let you into normal people society, to stop locking the gates and pushing you out. At least a year. If you want to add more, you can, but right now your character is 34. Looking at all your stuff, I can then go to the drop downs and I can adjust you. So look for race first and then look for your age. So in men, I go 30 to 35 is 7 points. And for men, 30 to 35 and physical stats is 14 points. Now, if you look here, it shows you what your actual stat scores are. I don't want to touch those yet because I want you to fill in all your skills first, and then we'll find out what your skills are derived from. That way you can decide how you want to spend your points for your stats.
All right.
Because just like D&D, like athletics is pulled from strength, forging might be pulled from a mix of perception and willpower or something like that.
Yeah.
You're going to want to know those answers. So what you want to do next is build your skill list. Make sure you fill that in with each life path. And remember, first one is required.
From the skill points from the life
from
path.
the skill list. Yeah. Make sure you check the required box.
All right.
Where do I put my traits?
There is a section below skills that says traits. You'll see I've already written blooded in there.
Yeah.
Same thing with the traits. Your first one is required.
So
And
blooded
all of
is
this-
required.
Yes, blooded is. I filled in blooded. Don't worry about that. So your first one is what? Villageborn?
Yeah, I don't. Villageborn and foot soldier have no traits associated.
Okay. What is your first one that gives you a trait?
Squire. It's pragmatic.
Pragmatic. So the way you would enter that is pragmatic. And then it costs 1. Because it's your first one, you're going to check the required box. Does it have another trait after pragmatic?
It does. It has tough.
So, tough, you would just enter like this. Don't check the required box, but you put it there.
Okay. And then
And
I have
anything that is in your life
determined.
path costs 1. When you guys get done, ideally before next week, I will go over and just make sure that everything is right. And if there's any changes, I'll correct them. Like I said, the hardest part about this game is actually making your characters. once we start playing. It's actually a pretty rules-light game until we start adding some of the extra mechanics, which we'll add as the story goes along when they become important. Like one of the things that I really like is there's really 3 different kinds of fighting in this game. You can roll like your sword skill to kill someone, and it's just like a person that doesn't matter. That's just a roll your sword. If you beat it, the number, you kill them. Yay, move on. There's another one called Bloody Versus, which is fights that you stand a risk to be injured and deserve a little bit more fleshed out than a simple roll. Basically, you roll and they roll, and you compare results of what your offense and defenses are, and it's settled that way. And then there's a third kind, which is a duel style. Basically, it only works really well when it's one-on-one, and you use fight mechanics, which use these little card decks that I have on the side here. And you pick out what your moves are, and we flip our cards at the same time. So it's a little bit of like a tactical game between you and I as people and as our characters. Whenever I play a character that's in one of those card game situations, because there's one for Duel of Wits, which is a conversation, one for fight, and one for range and cover, which is with a bow fighting. I will play to what I think the character is, not necessarily what I think I should pick as a person. And you guys can choose your choices based upon the character you're talking to.
I have a question. Shield training, I get it twice, once from Squire, once from Knight. It is not required it is not the first skill in either.
Okay, you just add it to your list, and then you don't have to put it in. Shield training is a really good example. I'm going to put a star next to it. If you notice in the book, there is a star next to it. Basically, what that means is it's a special skill. You can open it, but once it's opened, you get a shield, or you know how to use a shield is what it is.
Okay. So I can delete the second shield training, or do I write both?
Just delete. Just don't put it in.
Okay.
Shield training basically lets you negate negatives that you would have for using a shield for not being trained. So you actually know how to position a shield correctly on your arm so that you can get use out of it. Armor training's the same way for your character. For the Drakrit counts as armor, so you're going to want to pick up armor training at some point.
I get it at night as a knight.
Good.
And I get appropriate weapons again.
Okay, I love appropriate weapons.
So appropriate weapons is depending on our setting. If we had guns in the setting, this is where I would say, okay, you guys have guns. Drakrit is not its own weapon. What you're going to do is like whatever you want your mech to have as a weapon, I would suggest that to be your best weapon skill. So like if you think that your mech is going to use a sword or going to use a bow, probably that should be the best skill that you have. But pretty much any medieval weapon, you take an individual skill for each weapon. So a bow is one, but that works for long and short bows.
I have a
Swords
question.
work for all types of swords. Knives work for all types of knives. That sort of thing.
So if I just say sword, it's all types of swords.
Yes.
So if I wanted a Kopesh,
have, like for example, a falcata, you could definitely have that.
Okay.
And that just falls under sword.
Okay.
Or Kopesh. That's the one that I was originally trying to think of. Because Kopeshes are badass.
So do I write? So up here I would just write Kopesh, and then down here I would write another weapon again.
You can put any weapons you want. So like
swordsman
instead of Kopesh, you would put sword.
Okay.
That'll count for all swords.
And it counts for all types of swords. And you can list as many weapons as you think that your character would have picked up. You being a survivalist character, I don't really see any reason that your character wouldn't have a bunch of types of weapons. So this is the kind of game that your weapon choice does kind of matter. Swords are the most balanced weapon. They can be used pretty well for defense and offense. If you use like a mace or a cudgel weapon, cudgels are really good at destroying armor. So your character knowing that the end is coming, I figured you probably would pick up and learn how to use cudgels at some point. Bows would be good against ranged combatants or crossbows. I don't think there's any guns in this world. I wanted to make that clear. Even on the mechas, they're not really gun. Well, they kind of are, but they're not.
No. We don't. No, we use
essentially. It looks like a mech with a bow that shoots lightning bolts.
No, they don't. They don't shoot guns. Come on. We use fucking
Lasers.
no, arbalists.
Hmm. Chris, I have a bit of a narrative concern with my life paths.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm going to be from a die family, so I'm starting out born noble, and
Okay.
the path I mapped out to get all the things I want is arcane devotee, painter, sorcerer, cloth dyer, because that's what I have to do in order to get all those things in that
Dude,
order.
there's a cloth dyeing one. That's awesome. I didn't
Yes.
even know about that.
It's a villager, is the thing.
It's there's so many. There's like anything mundane, but yep, there's a life path. Why
Yeah.
not?
That is so awesome. Okay.
My problem is like this is not necessarily the order in which my character did these things because this does not account for the world you built. Because
Yeah,
cloth dyers like should be a noble profession inside your world.
Honestly, I think personally, only the born life path is the only one that really.
So how are the life paths saying that you should do it?
Well, let's see. From born noble, I go to arcane devotee because that's like the easiest way to get the gifted trait. From there, I can go down to city paths.
Okay.
So I go down to painter. And from painter, I go down to sorcerer, and sorcerer gives me access to the village setting. So then I go down to cloth dyer.
Okay. So if you wanted to keep it the way it is, basically what your life paths are telling me is that you were born a noble. Your parents saw that you had an ability towards doing things that are beyond the mundane, and being a noble house, they wanted to invest in that because magic cloth is definitely worth more than just regularly good dyed cloth. They sent you over to learn. When you came back, you started your noble house training, which would include dye maker. You took some time off to study magic again, and then you came back and you became a cloth dyer, which I think most of your family, like the higher ups, they're cloth dyers and courtiers and things like that. God, I cannot wait to play with your family because that's crazy cool that they have life paths for cloth dyeing.
Well, it's just like the one villager one. So
the other thing too is we can narratively say that you did them differently if you want to, so long as there's not like cloth dyer requires apprentice inside there. I saw
it does. Oh crap! I need to redo this.
That will be the only ones that have to stagnantly be in a certain order. So like to become a cloth dyer, you need apprentice first.
Crap.
Also, another thing
So let's talk about what I was going to talk about with Murdoch before I realized that my math was bad. Tom is talking about a possible 6 life path character. It means his character will be a little older, but it does match his concept a little better. Is the group okay with Tom being the only person with 6 life paths? It doesn't necessarily mean that he's drastically better than you guys, but it does let him accomplish what he was doing to begin with, or what he had envisioned. He will have a little bit more skill points than you guys, but he will probably have lower stats than you guys.
Yeah, he's a noble.
Older. Yeah,
he's our noble.
I mean, the fact that he's just trying to build the character. He's not like, I want to do 6 paths.
I was going to say, the only time I've seen this get weird where one character has one more life path than the rest is when that one character happens to be built as a super badass juggernaut soldier. Because he is so much more badass.
So you're badass, but he's badasser.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it. Yeah.
I ran a one shot where I did a 3 life path character, a 4 life path, and a 5 life path at the same time. And the 5 life path guy, because he was specifically just built for combat, like he had no other skills outside of combat, he was just an abomination. He could kill things way better than anyone could do anything else.
Yeah, well, my build isn't particularly focused.
I don't think that will happen to you.
Yeah. The thing I'm going for is not particularly focused in any respect. I'm like half a craftsman and half sorcerer, but like not in a munchkin-y way. So I can do a lot of things.
I'm half craftsman, half sorcerer too. I understand your problem here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You are going to have to fit an apprentice in there, so I think.
Hey, Tom, I was thinking since your family's a noble family, maybe they rose from being lowborn because they were craftsmen, but because the craft is so revered, they were elevated to a noble house. So
Yeah,
maybe
I
they
think-
don't necessarily do it
die
themselves.
houses, it's definitely about how good you are at your job. It's not you were born into it. Like there are probably people in the dye houses that just aren't good at dyeing, making dyes or dyeing products, that they're like, well, sorry, Joe, you got to go work the field. That's all you know how to do anyways. And like, they're not respected as much as like somebody who actually crafts the dyes or actually does the dye work. And I think that's going to be something more to explore when we get over to like, let's go visit Tom's house. And we start exploring that. It's going to become a question with Tom, like, hey, how is your house structured? Things like that, which we can explore inside there. But I definitely think that there's like what is it called when you have a society that's based upon skill rather than merit?
Meritocracy.
Is it a meritocracy?
Meritocracy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think their houses are set up like mini meritocracies. All right, perfect. So that is your life paths. You guys will go ahead and put in your skills and your traits. Is anybody close on their skills and traits at the moment so that I can...
So only the only one that's required is the first set of skills from your life path?
Correct.
The first version?
The first one listed, yeah.
Correct. So I think this comes up in the Squire Knight path, or possibly Squire Knight Militant order, somewhere in there. If you have any overlaps, remember, if you have an overlap, the second skill becomes required.
Are traits the same thing? Like if you have multiple traits in your life path, you definitely have to take the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have an overlap on traits and it's the first one, you move to the second one in that new path. So if I have apprentice, I got broken in from being a slave born or somewhere in the outcast society, and then I took apprentice, I would, instead of taking broken in, take backbreaking labor. If there's nothing after that, that's just a free point. You don't have to worry about it.
But you can still spend it on some of the other life path ones if you want.
Yes.
Okay. That answers a lot of what I was looking at.
Let's take a look here.
What's the RES column?
The what?
RES.
That's resources.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's resources. It's when you look at it, it's the third column next to the name.
Yeah. Like because I have some crafting shit and some whatever. I have 49 resources.
What page was Abbott? 160 something, right?
Yeah,
No.
I have 45 resources from Abbott.
What page is Abbott on?
186.
Oh, did Abbott alone give you 45?
Wait,
I run a goddamn
No,
monastery.
Abbott alone.
Yeah, Abbott alone gives me 45.
guys,
Jeez.
what page for Abbott?
186.
186. Okay. So yeah, here's the thing: as an abbot, he has to buy a church for it to exist in the game.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Jeez. Because it's one of those high life ones. Like, jeez.
Yeah. Merchants typically get out of control resources too.
Since I didn't go high up
Like
on the
a
merchants,
5 life path merchant, you would not surprise me if you told me you had like over 100 resources.
I only have 49. I don't feel like much of a merchant.
To give you an idea, because of the way that Brennan's built, his character, Brewer gave him a pretty good amount for like a mid-level life path. Villager gave him, or not Villager, Acolyte gave him a pretty good amount. Itinerant Priest was kind of a negative for him. He could have gotten more by being a village priest.
But Itinerant Priest had better skills.
Yeah, but Itinerant Priest fit his idea. He's got 82 resources by the time it's all done.
Look, man, the church is rich. I get it.
So, which is funny because when we look at Jeremy's character will probably have about like 40 or something like that by the time it's all done. Or not Jeremy, right but now. Nate's character will probably have like 40 by the time it's done, because he just wants to be like a villager for the most part when the story starts.
I had a concept actually.
Okay.
That kind of politically aligns me with the group, but I don't know if so it politically aligns me with the group once the group gets to know each other.
Okay.
But the end of the story, basically becoming a grain farmer, after all is said and done, gives me story reasons to interact as well.
Okay.
I like the idea of being an exiled prince.
Okay.
Uh,
Is there an exiled prince life path? Because I did not see one.
No,
unless-
I just came up with this because
Okay.
I finally convinced myself to just abandon the idea of magic because that was just making things way too freaking complicated.
Yes, in your case, it would.
Yeah, and it's honestly looking through that's honestly what I've been doing this entire time is trying to write that path, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, when I wrote the NPC Alistair, his life paths are like that. Like he is by far a shittier character than if I had just built a knight.
Yeah,
Because
but he's
I
cool.
was like,
I'm
nope,
sure.
I'm sticking with this thing.
Yeah, but so the only ones so Prince of the Blood is like a weird elven special story thing apparently.
No, not Prince of Blood. I'm sorry, I told you the wrong trait. That
Okay.
Prince of Blood is a weird elven thing, but because elves have atriarchs or something like that.
Etharks. Or something.
Etharks. What we're looking for is the noble setting. There is a life path called Prince of Blood.
Okay.
That is you are the prince in line to take the throne somewhere.
Okay.
If you want to be an exiled prince and you don't really have a direct claim at the start of the game, you want noble prince, which is the one right before it.
Okay, so I'd have to take Born Noble.
Yes, that's going to be the easiest way to get to it, is Born Noble.
Or Noble.
And yours is going to stay pretty much inside the noble lifestyle.
Until I get kicked out.
Yeah. So, let's see. A noble prince requires you to be a duke, knight, or knight, and have your grace trait. Prince of Blood only requires your grace.
Well, it requires your grace and your permission and player
my
permission,
which I'm okay with. It might make more sense for you to go Prince of Blood, and then the start of the game is you being exiled. It's kind of up to you how you want to go. If you want to go the noble prince route, we could look at Duke so that you don't have like an incredible amount of overlap on Murdoch, which would give you more courtly stuff. Like Duke actually requires Duke, so that's a typo. Or Knight. Let me look up what that should be.
Nope, Duke requires Duke. Deal with it.
Shit, I can't be a Duke, guys. It's impossible.
Well, it is possible, but you have to be a Duke first.
No. Yeah.
So it's impossible.
Are you a Duke?
Yeah.
To invent time travel.
All right. No. Nate's a Duke. He said he can be a Duke.
Oh, here we go.
Nate.
Yes,
Fucking-
Duke Nate.
I love the guy that writes Burning Wheel because he's just like a regular dude. He's not like a big corporation. So I go to his forum boards and I go, hey, and it says, hey, it says Duke or Knight is required. Should I take it that the Duke is wrong, or is that there's some other way besides Knight? And Luke Crane, the author, said it'd have to be Count, I think. Maybe Bishop. I don't know. Something hard and rare. Dukes were more often born than made. So I think that we can pretty much say that that Count is probably a good one, or Bishop.
Even
those
the
are two
creator
that-
of the game sounds pretty fast and loose with the rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Count would be fine. Count requires Knight and okay, so you're gonna have to be a Knight regardless. It looks like I was looking for you to not have to be a Knight.
I don't think you should have to be a knight.
I don't want
fucking noble.
Yeah, I don't want to overlap. So like princes are
Being a
born,
knight
not
is
made.
dumb.
To use his words.
I'm looking for another way. What about Lord into Duke into Prince of Blood? if
So
you wanted
I
to.
was thinking so for exile, I was thinking actually Prince of Blood. Like I'm the firstborn. Like it's after
Okay.
Dad dies, it's gonna be my turn. but I uncover something. I uncover like some blood magic shit or whatever about
Right.
the church, and then the church exiles me despite the political implication and the something. So they basically have
Okay.
try to have me killed secretly. But I have
Yeah, I was
friends
going to
in
say
the
there's
castle, and
definitely
they get me
assassins
out.
coming for you.
But I have
They
friends.
needed it
I
for
have
their
friends.
blood cult
Yeah,
things.
yeah. But like, so they basically try to have me killed because they can't exile the prince. But I have friends inside, and my friends inside basically help me get out and fake my death or something like that. I don't know. And I start over a new life as a grain farmer.
Okay.
And I'm an adult now, and
So do I.
I want to go retake my throne
I-
because
I-
now that like dad has died and somebody else took over or something, and everything sucks.
I was gonna say, I think Nate's got this, man. He doesn't even know the fact that he should be a rice farmer, but he's calling himself a grain farmer. Fucking nobles don't know the difference.
So you just need your grace and permission. So you've got that. That's fine. I think that's cool. So you could be. What's going to get you your grace?
Born noble, mark
Born
of
noble,
privilege, your lordship,
okay.
your eminence, your grace.
Okay. So let me tell you a little bit. You're going to have to buy mark of privilege, so your 1 trait point is automatically going to be spent on mark of privilege.
Oh shit.
So you want to take another life path that gives you at least 2 points. That way you can buy your grace and then go into Prince of Blood.
Okay, cool.
So that's a little gamey, but that's how you're going to get there.
Okay. All right. Now, yeah, I was so focused on trying to make that path
So
work.
Here's an easy way to do it. You could do, and this is going to be a common thing for nobles. You could be born noble, take student, which is going to get you a bunch of like handy skills, 1 free trait point, and then immediately go over to Prince of Blood because you didn't really do anything with your life.
Nope.
and then you got exiled to either a soldier, let's see, court soldier or religious, and then go from there to village.
Shit, this is gonna be a long path. All right, I'll figure it out.
So that was born noble. Do you like the idea of student, or do you want me to look for something else that might work?
Student works. Squire technically works, but that's a lot of combat overlap. We don't really have like courtly, and I suppose I can do court if I'm going to be king. I might as well learn how to do court.
So here's my recommendation. I would recommend you do court because right now, Tom's character could definitely sounds like he's going to be involved in courtly stuff, but you don't have anybody who's specialized in courtly stuff. So that would definitely make you stand out if you take like courtier.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So skills, write them down in order, and because
noble's court setting.
I think it's noble court setting. Yeah,
it is.
Okay. Let me look at courtier to make sure you can make it back to noble.
So, okay.
Yeah, you can. So, born noble.
Do I write down all the traits too?
Courtier, yes. Then to Prince of Blood, which that's going to have 1 lead, 1 lead. I always put 1 lead in there just to start to know that I have a lead, but you can fiddle with those numbers and be like, oh, I spent more time doing this than the original.
Do I have to put it on the one that I go in? Do I have to put it in born noble, lead 1 or something if I'm going to change?
Because you're going from noble to noble court, it'll become lead 1, which I just put in for you there.
But like for me, for Squire, there was no lead for that.
Yeah.
Because you're staying in noble setting?
Yeah.
Or whatever it would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
gotcha. That's just syntax.
Yeah. For reference, my life paths have never taken me to noble court. So while I may be noble, I'm kind of like low tierish.
The way I envisioned it is like die makers are treated with the same respect as like a noble or a person from the church, but they aren't necessarily nobles, which could be a point of contention for you. Like you could be like, no, we should be respected like nobles. We should have titles. We should get everything that a noble gets.
I.e., we should just be nobles.
Rise up, proletariat!
Stop it.
I'm starting a revolution. You can't stop me.
Shut up, Mark.
Every time this motherfucker starts a revolution. Every fucking time.
Listen,
So-
the droids need to rise up.
Student is in Noble, so I could
It
do
is.
that.
If you
Oh,
want
that's
to,
also in Noble Court. Okay, cool.
yeah, I was gonna say you could take student or you could do courtier. I mentioned courtier simply because that will make you a really important person for when Duel of Wits happens.
Holy shit, Courtier's super worth.
Yeah, courtier is really cool. I
Really
like it.
good, yeah.
So I filled in a couple blanks on your sheet there just so you see what I'm suggesting, which is noble, courtier, prince of blood.
Yeah, no, I think that works. And then
Uh,
after that, I basically get
Yeah,
fucking-
from there it's free for all to get you to become a farmer, basically, which I think should be fairly easy and you can do in 2 jumps.
I'm sure I'm figure it out. I'll figure
I
it
was
out.
gonna say noble prince will take you to
I think it's gonna end up going through religious, to be honest, because like a
court.
sect of the
which you don't
church is
wanna
like, wow, the
do,
church sucks.
religion,
I'll figure it out. I gotta write stuff down.
soldier.
So how do I the traits thing? I write down all the traits I have access to.
Yes.
So cost 1, and so rapier wit required
Yeah.
cost 1, not 12. Grace, I'll
Correct.
buy that. I'll just buy Grace when I take noble court or courtier, right?
Yeah, when you take courtier, basically you're gonna use your 1 point and put it in 1.
Okay.
So it'll look like that. If you are not buying it, don't put anything in the cost. I'm sorry, I forgot how the sheet calculates. So if it's required, put required cost 1. If it's not required, leave it blank.
Skills 8 freaking skills. That's so good. 5.
Hold on. You said for skills, if it's required, put required in cost 1
No, for traits only.
for traits.
Yep.
Yeah, no, sorry. I figured that one out. I have 2 free traits beyond the 5 required ones to take. I can take.
Most traits typically fall into the 3-point category. You can get what's called a character trait, which is basically like a characteristic of your person. Like you could say, I have messy hair, and that's your character trait. It doesn't have any effect on the game. It's just something that is a fact about your character.
Well,
I
was
should
just
say,
going based on the traits.
I say it doesn't have an effect on the game, but if you play your cards right and you pick the right kind of traits, you can use them against yourself. Like my messy hair makes me not welcomed at court, and you'll get points for them.
All right, now
Means
I'm
character
total,
advancement.
I'm confused about
What are you confused about?
because okay, so going with traits, right? Just basic life path, nothing special.
Okay.
I have 5 life paths, but the life paths give me a total of 7 trait points.
Okay. Excellent.
So I have 2 extra trait points to utilize.
Correct.
I use them. Do I put them in like I would using the traits from my life paths if I have extra
So
traits I can take?
if you buy something that is in your life paths that was not required, it will
Yeah.
cost you 1 point instead of what its normal cost is. Like for example, faithful, which gives you the faith trait or the faith ability to be able to perform miracles. If
Yeah.
I buy that as Sergeant Alistair, who does not have faithful in his life paths, it would cost me 5 points.
Yeah.
But as Brendan's character with the faithful trait, he gets it for 1. So Brendan's character, if faithful is not a required one for him, he just needs to make sure that he has at least 1 point at the end so that he can put it in faithful. And then he gets the character he wanted.
Yeah.
Which, if I remember right, he's pretty much all square to do so anyways. Yeah, he's got like 8 points. So he'll be
Okay.
fine.
I actually have to pay 2 for it. But yes, it's still
Why
a
were we
really steep
ending at
discount.
12, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, faithful is an exception.
We're ending at 1.
Okay, we're ending at 1. All right, just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is closely creeping up on us.
I mean, I can stretch it a tiny bit, but not too much.
I'm not looking to stretch it. I do want to end at our specific time.
Yeah.
From here, it's kind of filling in blanks. So I definitely want to just basically answer questions. There is some more stuff, so we will do a part 2 because I have to basically help you guys do what your health looks like, what your steel, which is like your internal fortitude, what that looks like, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Do I have to? So I can basically bank trait points. Take the required one, and then bank the rest of the trait points to spend later on at the end, or do I spend them when I get them?
You're going to spend them during character creation, but you want to keep them. Yeah, you. What I would do is just purchase the ones that are required. That way, you know how much you have left at the end. That way, you can turn around and be like, oh, and I want magic. You can do that.
Boom.
Yeah, I've realized one of the ones that is not required, but I want anyways, is for my traits gifted, which allows me to actually use spells.
So for Jeremy, he needs to make sure, since he has 5 life paths, that he has at least 6 trait points by the time he's done.
I have 7,
so he can do it.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to end up taking Sharp Dresser.
I did.
Awesome. The thing that I love about the traits too is like when you take a character trait, like I said, you are that thing. So like if you're from the Holy Land and you have mustachioed, like people recognize your mustache. It is the shit.
There's a specific trait for bearded, specifically only for dwarves.
Yeah, dwarf and bearded is different. Like it's a society thing.
No male dwarf would ever be caught without a face full of beard. That's literally what it says.
And it's funny too because I've watched a game where they had female dwarves and they said nope, all dwarves are bearded. This is a thing.
No, but it says male dwarves.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's funny.
Specifically, male dwarves do not go with a naked face.
But female dwarves, probably won't either.
That character did keep her beard, and she weeped into it at one point because she was consumed by greed.
She weeped into it?
Yep, she weeped into her beard.
Terrible.
Awesome.
It was actually a really good scene. That was like just a little portion of what it was. So the other thing is skills. When you guys finish your skill list, a really important thing that I want you to do before next week, even though we're going to take some more time to make characters, is to look up each one of these skills that you have on your list and find out what its root is. Let me go over to the skill section so I can show you an example real quick.
I was gonna say I'm having a problem finding the root of a specific skill that I was given because I don't.
Which one?
General. It says. I got that from my Born Life Path.
Oh no, general is not a skill. Those are free points that you can spend on anything you want.
All
Do
right.
not spend them until the very end. Don't spend any skill points until our next character creation session. But I do want you to find the roots first.
All right.
Well, I was only putting in the required ones mostly.
Yeah. No, you want to put in all of them because that's the list of ones that you get from your life paths, not just the required.
All right.
Your requireds, you do need to put a check for required though.
Yeah.
So let me pull up a skill real quick here. 252 is where the skills start.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have to put in
anything that is a wise uses perception. So on the character sheet, I'm going to pull up, let's see who's in front of me. Brendan's. Brendan has beer wise. It uses perception, which Brendan already figured out how to change the drop-down box. Good job.
How do I enter in one with 2 roots? I'm looking at Chandler, and it's perception /
I haven't gotten there yet. So if it has 1 root, you use the drop-down box. If it has 2, which one has 2?
Chandler.
You said which one? Chandler? Okay.
Chandler. Candle making.
Yep. So
Chandler.
next to fancy word for candle making, he's got perception. There's a little box next to perception. If you check that, it now opens the second row.
Ooh.
So use that drop down. So to make candles, he needs to use his perceptive abilities, which is not just like perception from D&D. I see stuff. It's like the idea of perception, like how you sense things and stuff like that, not just visual. And he's got to use agility. So he's got to make it quickly or else the candle will seal or it will overheat in the process or whatever the case is. So it looks like Brennan's character, which happens to pretty much all priestly-like characters, is going to be super deep in will, because he's got a lot of stuff that go into will.
I have a lot of perception too, since I have so many skills. So yeah, I'll have to balance the two.
Like when I made Alistair, I'm going to kind of bring him up as an example since he's complete and you can see his skill list. If you look, he has a bunch of perception stuff. And then he's got agility and power because he's a soldier. Those are kind of the two main things: is agility and power when you're a soldier type character. We'll talk about how to assign stat points next time, but I wanted to make sure you guys understood that, because basically once your skill list is built, you can kind of figure out what stats should be important to you right away by looking at that.
Out of curiosity, how old is everyone?
I am 37.
31.
I'm
34.
young. I'm young so far.
I'm the old man. I'm 46.
Yeah, yeah, you're good, man. You have fucking 10 years of abbotness.
10 years of abbotness.
I want to be. It looks like I could be in my 20s.
Shit.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Mm.
So farmer,
Okay.
you got from the village, right?
Yep. I got that. Yeah. I'm gonna connect. I gotta go from noble to court to village. Just gotta figure it out.
Man, I only have one
So
free.
we're gonna spend the skill points next time.
Yeah, we'll spend the points next time. Because pretty much spending the points is pretty easy.
I can't take torturer.
Hold
Why
on.
do you want torturer?
So basically, the idea was that I go from Prince of Blood to whatever profession or whatever life path of the person that got me out, and then into farmer, because they got me out and kept me hidden for a while, and then found a place to sequester me away, to keep me hidden.
A farmer.
Well, he
You
can't
can't-
go to village
can't
just
go
yet.
from-
He's got to go to court, religion, or soldier.
Look,
Ooh,
man,
gold
his
religion.
ridiculous concept means that he has to do a whole fuck tons of shit.
Yeah, I
Go
gotta do it.
religion. Maybe a friend of mine got you out.
That's
and
actually what
set
I was
you up at
thinking.
my abbey.
I
So
was
go,
thinking
go
yeah.
religious route.
So that was my second. That's my second. It's probably what I'm end up going with, because it doesn't look like there's anything here. Like Forester could do it. Doesn't make any sense. Groom and nurse work, but like,
Dude,
Like Forester, I could see as, because keep in mind, this isn't like Forester is basically like the guy who tends to the king's forest.
yeah, like he doesn't go to the castle a whole lot. I don't fucking know the guy.
Like
Doesn't
you
make
could
any
have
sense.
gotten out, like you kind of know him and you pulled some favors and he's basically helping you out, but it's not going to be like,
It's nothing personal.
yeah, it's going to be kind of a weird detached thing. Like I don't see
Yeah.
a reason for him to keep you hidden away for a long time.
No, exactly. The torture, on the other hand, could be somebody like I could write some weird ass story and that could be cool, but the torture doesn't lead into village.
no, Nate, the
I
only
think
thing
the
you need to be
soldier is
worried
pretty
about.
easy for you too, because there's definitely like guards and shit like that you could probably like turn into a personal friend and escape with.
You just need to
Absolutely,
go whoremonger, Nate. Right? Just whoremonger.
Littlefinger got me out.
Since religion is as pertinent to like courtly society, I think religion, any of the stuff in religion could work fine.
We are running a theocracy, so that does actually make a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
I'm actually trying to pull up the religion setting and see if I see anything that like jumps out at me as
Yeah,
like,
and whoever got you out, maybe we were acolytes together, and just it gives us a common contact.
Porter could work. I get keys to the church.
Hey, man, if you're a porter, you're
What is
good.
the porter?
Porter?
Person who
pick-
carries, you pick things up and put them down.
yeah,
You,
that's literally what
transport
that
things.
is.
you literally carry stuff. You transport things.
You know, Nate, you really could go knight route or squire
Oh,
route,
dang.
excuse me. Go squire, and you could have squired to me, and I was the person that helped get you out.
We could do that. That could work.
And then I was like, "Hey, I know this abbey that could, it's a relatively unknown abbey. The abbot is a good friend. I'm sure he would love to have you." And
That gives me Yeah, I really like that. That also gives me the breadth of skill set that a noble would have between court matters and combat.
Ooh, I've got an idea too.
It also, if you're going to go for a mech, that actually is something I had considered earlier. Was that if I'm going to retake the crown, chances are I'm going to have to get into a fight at some point. I'm going to have to lead a battle at some point, and it gives me a reason to want to be a Drakrit.
So I have another idea for you.
And I would take
Advisor to the court.
and I would
Advisor
crush
to the
other
court.
Drakrit.
You hear me?
Advisor to the court, yeah.
Advisor of the court can go to anything. And what if you finding out about blood magic was not entirely by accident?
Ooh.
That the advisor of the court might want to take the throne, and you were the only thing standing in his way. And then he showed up to be your friend to help you escape the terrible situation you found yourself in. Set you up with a little farm in the countryside. Is paying off people to keep quiet about your existence.
And then I find out that he basically takes it over after Dad dies. Then I have like a very personal antagonist.
Yeah, that could definitely be someone. When we talk about these NPCs that you guys are creating, that will come up when we start spending resources. You're actually going to pay for them to exist in the world.
Okay.
Advisor of the court would definitely be a cool one. That one leads to any path, so he could literally plant you anywhere.
Yeah.
For
I
you
like
to
that
take
for
the advisor to the court path, though, because you were saying maybe taking the same path as him. There's not a good way for you to get there, to be honest.
That's noble court, right?
Yeah, actually, it is noble court. So you could take advisor to the court.
Prince of Blood just goes right into court.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
I
could only do it for like a year or two.
The other thing that's cool about it is it does get you general skill points.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
Per year that you decide to do it.
So it's the advisor to the king, you were saying? So he's teaching you the courtly ways. That's your life path for what
your life path would tell me is that you were born noble, you learned how to be a courtier, you were officially crowned the Prince of Blood, like the next in line. So you had a coronation to be a prince. And then the court advisor came up and he's like, hey, buddy, let me teach you about the things you're going to need to know when you're a king. And so you learned how to be a court advisor because this guy was slowly manipulating the scene for you to witness blood magics. And then he was like, oh, I'm your friend. Let me take you away to this little farm. And now that you're out of the picture, he can go back to his machinations.
You use the word machinations.
Yeah. Outside of that, from like the religious side, let's see, somebody that would be tied to Brendan's character as an abbot. A castrati would be somebody who would possibly be in the court, and could also tie back to Brendan's character as an abbot.
I like that so long as I get to keep my nuts.
Nope, you'd have to be a eunuch.
Not doing it.
If you take the same life path as him, because you're talking about doing that.
Are you a eunuch, Brendan?
No.
He missed
Actually,
that day.
You wouldn't take the castrati life path anyways because it doesn't lead to village. Sorry. Pardoner, maybe? That's somebody who listens to your sins and pardons you for the church officially.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. You could jump straight to bishop if you wanted to.
Which is funny.
Yeah,
A pardoner is not like a priest. He's like a lay person of the church that just listens to your sins.
You don't have to be faithful to that shit. You just have to, yo, you done, man. Tom forgives you.
You could just be.
So here's another thing that could tie you directly to Murdoch as well. You could take militant order and be a sergeant because you don't have a knightly title. You would have rank within a militant order though, but that does lead anywhere except for peasant, which village is anywhere except for peasant. And militant order knights would definitely be around the castle, so that would be easy.
Yeah.
Gravedigger, while hilarious, I don't think is a good option. Let's see here.
So, what are you so far, Nate?
Noble-born, courtier, Prince of Blood.
So interpreter
mark.
is a good choice too.
Farmer.
Oh, you didn't take student. Never mind. Interpreter won't work for you then.
I mean, if I wanted to, I could, but I think I'm leaning towards courtier.
Change courtier. Interpreter could work. And the interpreter that you learned under was probably had theologian in his path, and that's how he knows Brendan's character. But that's like reading, writing, and stuff like that. Like it's more scholarly stuff. Let me see here. What's another good one? Same with archivist. It would be very similar to the interpreter. Oh my god, I didn't realize it. We have to answer a question for Brennan. What does a tonsured monk look like in this setting? Are they actually like the bald monks that we're used to, or are they something different?
I'll have to think about that. But yeah, I'll definitely be taking that.
It actually could be just another itinerant monk. Like,
well, if he's staying in one place, he'd be a cloistered monk.
Yeah,
they have cloistered nun, which I imagine is just the same thing.
Yeah, that would he would be cloistered at that point, but yeah. The temple acolyte would work. Because you would be given free reign as a prince to go to church as much as you want. So it wouldn't be a big deal if you showed up to church a bunch of times and talked with acolytes there. Same with like priest, but temple acolyte you could take. But priest requires temple acolyte, so you could say that that it was a priest who got you out and you learned to be an acolyte as part of your cover.
So I'm going to be honest. I think my favorite is the advisor to the court thing.
I like it a lot because it's
a lot of story there.
I was going to say it gives us more in-game story. Like it's probably not going to be a thing right at the very beginning, but it's definitely going to come to a head eventually.
And I really like that.
Also helps you be the talky one.
Yeah. I mean, advisor to the court would just get me general, but I guess I could take a different thing to say the advisor got me out. And also, it keeps my year count really low.
Yeah,
because I figure I'm probably pretty young when I'm like shafted into being a farmer. I'm probably like 15, 16. Actually, I am exactly 15 at the minimum for Prince of Blood.
So you can choose your tenure. It's 1 to 3 years, and you get that many general points, and you get 10 times the amount of years and your resources. So it basically means like how long did you spend with the advisor before everything went bad? Because I really think that probably because you're going to have some lead time to go from noble court back to village. So that lead time is going to be you escaping the castle, trying to establish a new identity, that sort of stuff. So your lead time is probably at least 1-2 years.
Probably 2 years.
Because you would have to be gone long enough to basically be considered dead by your people and go to a whole different region, which is the Holy Land.
Advisor to the...
I really like the characters you guys have. They've got a lot of little interesting things, and I like the fact that we kind of built with each other in mind as well.
I think I'm going to go 3 years with the advisor.
Okay.
Because I like to think that my character isn't dumb, so the advisor would have to be really careful about how he went about everything. But he's old and smarter than me, so he eventually pulls it off.
Yeah, I don't think that your character is necessarily dumb, because will is going to be an important thing for you if you're going to do the Duel of Wits.
Yeah.
Because will is going to be a lot of the skills that you use. I think maybe the advisor did like the long con on you. Like
that's how I see it.
It wasn't like a short-term thing where he tried to pull the wool over your eyes real quick. It was like something that he had to set up for a long time.
Yeah.
So this one uses 1M/1P. That's you pick one. Do you want one mental point or one physical point out of this?
Oh, okay. It's going to be mental. It's the only one that makes sense.
Court Noble didn't give you a mental point? I thought it did.
Hold
Or
on.
Courtier didn't?
If it says 1M/1P, do you get both, or you do?
I'm plugging them in.
So if it says slash, it's one or the other. If it says 1M,
Comma
P, that's
Like go find Squire under Noble Court as
like
1M.
militant court or militant order gives you plus 1M, P. That means one mental and one physical.
Okay.
It says like advisor of the court plus 1M/P. That's one or the other.
All right.
Okay. So that is our time for today. For everybody who stuck around, watched us do character burning, thanks a lot. This is kind of the first little bit to get us started. This gives us a lot of ideas. I'm going to take my notes, compile some stuff, and start coming up with some background stuff for my end so that I can flesh out the world and come up with an exact detailed like what is starting our situation. Because right now we've got the village, but we haven't established like what is changing about the village that gets these 4 people or 5 people together. They definitely have like a reason to loosely be together, but they need something to unify them, which is where all this stuff comes in. Homework for you guys. Make sure you fill in those skills and traits with the required stuffs, and that you list all your skills and find the roots for your skills. If you guys have questions as you're filling this out, please feel free to message me. I'm going to go off air. I'm going to stick around, and if you guys just want to hang out and talk to me, that's cool. If not, go somewhere. Totally fine. For everybody watching, thanks a lot, and I'll see you at the gaming table.